she was bitten by your pit bull.
Yes, in my home. But I told her, do not go in my house.
But not because she had a killer dog.
She even said it was her fault.
No, don't make things up as we're going. Be very careful when you talk to me.
This is Judy Justice. Mila Bazin is suing her former employer, Sarah Adams, for lost wages and pain and suffering from a dog bite.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judy enters.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2177, Bazin versus Adams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to Mila.
Miss Bazin, you had a job as a dental assistant. Is that right?
Yes.
And you went to school for that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where did you go to school?
Medical Institute?
Did you graduate?
Yes.
I gather you didn't like it.
No.
I say that because you didn't stay in that career path for very long. Just for my own curiosity, I come from a long family of dentists. Tell me why you didn't like being a dental assistant. Had to be a reason.
Cleaning people's teeth and having them fight you and tell you that they don't have cavities when they do.
You didn't like the whole experience.
Yeah, all the explaining you have to do.
Okay, got it. Wasn't for you.
No.
You've got it in your hip pocket should you ever need it again. Right?
Yeah.
You have the degree. In any event, the defendant was a patient of yours. She came in as a patient.
Yes.
And you got to know each other, according to you. And she offered you a job at a place that she manages. You managed a store. What kind of store?
It's in a appliance store, so we sell scratch and dent appliances.
When was that?
Oh, geez. This had to have been in May.
May of 2022?
Correct.
Is that when you started working in the store?
I started July 3rd.
That was your start date? And what were your duties?
Sales rep, she taught me how to sell the scratch and dent appliances, how to run the store, and help her manage it. I was making more commission, so I did take the job besides the dental office.
So you worked in the dental office too?
No.
You left the
I
dental
left
office?
the dental office so I could pursue more money.
Okay. And you did make more money?
Yes.
There came a time, according to what I read in the complaint, that you, Miss Adams, asked the plaintiff to do an outside job for you.
No, that was not correct. So
Tell me how it happened that she ended up at your house.
what happened was I was going to take my lunch to take my kids who were at home lunch because they were on school break. She offered to go.
How old are your children?
16, 13, and 10. She offered to go in my place that she wanted a break. She clocked out for her lunch. I gave her money to go, one, pick up the food, and two, a little bit of gas money. She then went to my house.
Just a minute, we're not there yet. She clocked out for her lunch break.
I was clocking out of work.
Shh. And you're the store manager?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long do you get for a lunch break?
An hour.
That's an hour during the day. That's yours.
Correct.
Now, from the store where she was, where she clocked out, to the place where she was supposed to pick up lunch for your children, how far was that? Because you said you gave her gas money, so it wasn't around the corner.
15 minutes away.
And how far from this place where she got the food is your house?
Right down the road.
5 minutes.
Not even 2.
2 minutes, 17 minutes. And then she's got to get back.
Correct.
So that's almost 40 minutes
Correct.
out of her 1 hour lunch. So she was doing you a favor.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why don't you just say that? So you made me go through this whole exercise. It was more than half her lunch. It gave her 15 minutes for lunch. She was doing you a favor.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she ask you to do her this favor?
Yes.
Tell me how she asked you to do her this favor.
Wouldn't go through when we were ordering the food. I was already on my way home. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I was ready to go. She said, go ahead, here's some money, deliver the food to the children. Thank you for your help.
Did you have to pick up the food?
Yes.
Okay, she
I
gave you
went through
money.
the drive-thru, sat in the drive-thru, ordered the food, drove to her house.
So is what you're telling me that you did not volunteer?
No, I was going home and then canceled, and I said, okay, I'm on my way home anyway.
Oh, so get back, step back. Did you order food
I
to send
did,
to your
and
kids?
it did not go through.
Okay, so you ordered food to get there, and this was lunchtime.
Correct.
And how did you find out that they canceled?
They sent me a notification to my phone.
To your phone?
Correct.
And what time was that?
1 o'clock, 1:15.
Had you already taken your lunch break?
No, ma'am. Most days I do not.
So you're in the store all day?
I am.
Well, then it would seem to me she had to find out that they canceled because you said that they sent the note to you.
We work right next to one another.
I don't know, she wasn't looking over at your phone,
Right.
She wasn't looking over at your phone. If you work right next to each other, common sense would dictate you said something, oh, whatever. Well, what expletive you used, they canceled my order.
Correct.
Could you take stuff to my kids for lunch?
I was going to do it. She offered.
I want you to tell me exactly what you said. You stay in the store all day.
Caption. Coming up.
Now you thought about it and you thought about your defense, and you did, in fact, according to you. Just remember something, because here's 20 bucks. Would you take the food, drop it off for the children? And in addition, voila, you said to her,
Please do not go in my house. My dog is aggressive.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Mila and Sarah Adams.
Mila Bazin claims her former employer, Sarah Adams, owes for injuries from a dog bite. Sarah is countersuing for harassment and slander.
I want you to tell me exactly what you said. You stay in the store all day.
Yes.
Okay.
But on
and
this
she was ready to leave.
No, so she was leaving for her lunch.
No.
I was going to leave and take the kids' food. Mila stated she wanted to go out of the store. She needed a break. So I told her, okay, if you want to clock out and take your lunch, if you will do this for me, I will give you an extra $20 for gas. She said, okay, no problem. So it was doing me a favor.
That's what I want you to say.
Yes.
She was doing me a favor because I wanted to get my 16-year-old lunch that she couldn't get for herself.
Correct.
Right, that she couldn't walk around the corner and get for herself, or open the freezer and put it in a toaster, right?
Right.
Okay, so you had one of your subordinates go to your house and deliver the food. That's the bottom line. You had one of your subordinates, because you were in the store where you stay all the time, you had one of your subordinates, gave her 20 bucks, here's a little gas money for you, go pick up the food and bring it to the house. By the way, your 16-year-old doesn't get around?
No, she's not driving it.
She walks.
Correct, but I don't like my children to leave the house.
In the middle of the day, 1 o'clock?
Correct.
Okay.
Not in this world that we live in.
Okie dokie. Anyway, here's 20 bucks. Thank you. Did you say anything else to her?
No.
Has she ever been to your house before?
Not at that time, no.
Prior to giving her money and say, could you pick up the food and drop it off, she had not been to your house before.
Correct. I did state to her before she left.
Just a second. She had not been to your house before.
Correct.
Now you thought about it and you thought about your defense, and you did, in fact, according to you, just remember something, because here's 20 bucks. Would you take the food, drop it off for the children? And in addition, voila, you said to her,
Please do not go in my house. My dog is aggressive.
And that's why
I did tell her to call me when she got there. I would call my daughter, have her go out and get the food. And, Your Honor, I do have a video of my Ring doorbell of what happened.
I'm going to watch that.
Okay.
Because what happened was there was a lot of food, according to what I've read. It needed
3 children.
It needed 2 trips. Daughter took in some, she took the other, and she was bitten by your pit bull.
Correct, but I told her, do not go in my house.
And she was bitten by your pit bull.
Yes, in my home.
She wasn't trespassing in your house, madam. She wasn't burglarizing your house. She was bitten by your pit bull. That's what the case is about.
She was told not to go into my house.
If I believe you.
I have evidence.
I'm going to look at it.
Okay.
If I believe you, whether I believe you or not, she was bitten in your house by your dog. How old is your pit bull?
7 years old.
Where did you get her?
From the pound.
So you went to get food. You took your car and you went to get food. And you picked up how many bags of food for the 3 children?
There's at least, I think, 2 bags, or 1 big bag, and then 2 drinks. 3 drinks in total. I had to carry 1 drink back in behind April. I should have waited in the car, but...
Now, why should you have waited in the car?
Because
why?
Now that I'm bitten, I say that.
Well, what would have made you think that you should be waiting in the car?
No reason.
Did Miss Adams say to you when you left,
No, Your Honor.
text me when you get there, my daughter will come out?
Yes, to make it easier for me, but not because she told me she had a killer dog.
Did she tell you she had any dog?
No, I knew of one little dog. her little Mookie, her baby Chihuahua dog.
Your Honor, I bring a dog with me to work every day.
That
A
you just
Pekingese.
got while I was
Just a
working
second.
there.
Just a second. Don't interrupt. She said she knew of one little dog, a Pekingese. That's all you knew about.
I knew of her Chihuahua at the time. The Pekingese came later. She inherited her dad's dog, but all I knew of was her little Mookie Chihuahua. I also have a Chihuahua. I thought we both had Chihuahuas. I would not go to anyone's house if they had a killer pit bull. Pit bulls, period.
Okay, you picked up the food, you got to the house, what did you do?
April came out to the car, grabbed what she could. I had the remainder drink. I got up and followed Miss April inside the house. Once we got to the door.
Is April the 16-year-old?
Yes.
That's you.
Mm-hmm. Once she stepped inside, I stepped in behind her. She turned around to grab it, and the dog was right there.
Step up.
Bit my leg.
Okay.
April rises, then stands beside her mother.
April, do you have friends?
Yeah.
Do they drive?
No.
None of them?
No.
And do you live in a rural area, or are there stores there?
There's some stores down
What
two
kind?
streets.
Oh, yeah, what kind of stores?
A grocery store.
Yeah. So if you wanted to and you were hungry, you could have gone to the grocery store and gotten something for lunch. Is not an answer.
Yes.
So on that day, let me make sure what day we're talking about here. July 18th. On July 18th, you and your siblings were home for the day?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about the conversation you had with your mother about ordering lunch.
My siblings were hungry and wanted something new, so I asked my mother.
You called your mother at work?
Yes, I called my mother at work to ask if she can order some food.
What time did you call your mother?
It was around 1. Not sure.
And that's all you said to her? And what did your mother say?
She said, yeah.
She said yes, but she must have also said, what do they want? I mean, they didn't want to go to the grocery store, so she said, what do you want?
She said, I can order McDonald's, and I said, that's fine.
She said, I can order McDonald's, and?
And I said, that's great, that's okay, thank you for doing that.
Okay. Now, she called you later to tell you that they had canceled the order.
Yes.
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 And what did she say when she said they canceled the order?
She said that Mila was coming over to drop off the food, and she already told her about...
No, don't make things up as we're going. Be very careful when you talk to me.
Yeah.
She said Mila is on her way over with the food.
Yes.
Now, Mila came over, she pulled her car up in front of your house,
Yeah.
and did you see her pull the car up in front of the house?
Yes.
Okay, did you come outside?
Yes.
All right. Came outside. Did she get out of the car? We're going to go step by step. She got out of the car.
No.
She stayed in the car.
Yes.
And you took a bag.
I took all I could, 2 bags and a drink.
Okay. But that wasn't all the food there was.
Yes. I told her I would come back for the rest.
Did she say that to
No,
you?
Your Honor.
Caption, coming up.
I didn't hear you say to her when she turned around, stay out there. I didn't hear you say that to her.
I said
Do you
that-
understand? I didn't hear you, and I heard everything. Say that to her. She had one drink that she was going to give you, and she actually leaned over to give it to you. I didn't hear you say anything to her.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Mila, Sarah Adams, and April.
Mila Bazin is accusing her former employer, Sarah Adams, of refusing to pay for injuries caused by her pit bull. Sarah claims Mila already agreed to a $300 settlement.
Now, she got out of the car.
No.
She stayed in the car.
Yes.
And you took a bag.
I took all I could, 2 bags and a drink.
Okay. But that wasn't all the food there was.
Yes. I told her I would come back for the rest.
Did she say that to
No,
you?
Your Honor. I was just nice and got out of the car and followed her.
Yeah. You didn't have that much of a discussion. It doesn't make sense that you had that much. So there was a drink left?
Yes.
So she was walking in following you with the one drink.
No.
She didn't follow you into the house with the one drink?
And not until later.
What do you mean not until later? What happened in between the fact that you grabbed the food and 2 drinks, there was a drink left. Now she's out of the car.
I didn't realize she was out of the car. I thought she would stay under the car. So I'm walking over to the house to open the door.
Okay. Now, I want you to point to some place in this room where the car was and where your front door was. Make believe I'm the car. Point to some place in this room. If it has to be more, you can say it's twice that distance, twice the distance from the front and the back of the courtroom or half the distance, or it's the same distance? How far is it from the car to your house?
The car was right here, and our
No,
door.
I'm the car.
Yeah,
And how
Car.
far away is front door?
about right here, not that far away.
Where?
Where those?
So maybe 20 feet.
Yes.
Now I'm going to look at your video.
Footage of April carrying fast food bags and drinks while approaching a front door. Carrying a drink, Mila approaches from behind, then follows her inside. Subtitles.
I am so sorry.
Mila backs onto the porch, then examines her wounded leg. Subtitles.
I am so sorry. Get the door. What happened?
Mila closes the door, then sits in a chair and examines her leg. Subtitles.
Give me a towel. I am so sorry. Give me a towel, hurry.
I didn't hear you say to her when she turned around, stay out there. I didn't hear you say that to her. Do you understand? I didn't hear you, and I heard everything. Say that to her. She had one drink that she was going to give you, and she actually leaned over to give it to you as you were in the door. I didn't hear you say anything to her. Stay outside, don't come near here. That's a long walk. I didn't hear you. Is that because you didn't say it?
No, before the video, when I went to get, she was inside.
Oh, we're going to hear it again. We're going to go right from the beginning. I heard you speak to your brothers, open the door, food's here. I heard that. I didn't hear anything else. I may have missed it. We're going to play it again.
Footage of April carrying fast food bags and drinks while approaching a front door. Carrying a drink, Mila approaches from behind, then follows her inside.
You turn around, you saw her walking in after you.
Subtitles.
I am so sorry.
Mila examines her wounded leg.
Okay. Anyway, Miss Bazin, as a result of this dog bite, according to you, you had some serious medical issues. It became infected, couldn't work for a period of time. Do you have any of the medical records?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at them.
I have them, the bill and the records. You want just the records?
Yeah, both.
Mila hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
Color coordinated by paper clips.
Mila grins. Judy reviews the documents.
Does the job that you had give you health insurance?
So I have access with Arizona, and they pay up a percentage of it, but not everything.
Do you have what is left over that is your
So
responsibility?
they wouldn't give me until the end of the year, I guess, but that's what they billed me, and they keep calling me every day saying I have.
Your Honor, I have a text message from Mila saying that she had unlimited health insurance
what
and
I
they can
thought
bill
I-
her for whatever she wants.
That's
Okay.
I would like
before
to
I knew I
present
was
that
going
for
into
you.
surgery.
Let's try not to talk to each other.
Also, Mila went to the hospital 4 times, and I have records of all of that and what they did each time per her text messages.
Yeah,
And I have pictures of the bite when it happened if you'd like to see that as well.
she has it. You don't have to prove her case. I'm sure you have pictures.
Yes,
Yes, I'm sure. How long were you on antibiotics?
for at least almost like 2 months off and on. I had to go back multiple times and have it aspirated.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, got infected. Do you rent or own your own home, Miss Adams?
I rent it.
You have renter's insurance?
I do.
Did the renter's insurance that you have, is the company aware of the fact that you had a pit bull?
Yes, and it is extremely hard to find a place to rent with a pit bull.
No, I didn't ask you that. I asked you whether your insurance, your renter's insurance, had a provision that excluded the insurance from a pit bull bite.
I do not recall, no.
What state do you live in?
Arizona.
What's the name of the company?
It's through our insurance on the car. I'm not 100%.
Did you notify them of this dog bite?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because she even said it was her fault.
It wasn't her fault. It was your fault. You had the dangerous animal.
How is it my
Guys,
fault?
just a
I
second.
told her not to go in my house.
Don't ask me any questions, madam, and I'm going to tell you something. Based upon that video, there's no indication that you told her, don't go into my house.
I told her at work.
Listen to me. Based upon what I saw, if you knew that you had a dog that was territorial and she shouldn't go into the house, then you, when you speak to your daughter who was too lazy to go to the grocery store, say to her, I have one of my employees that I'm sending with your food, which is exactly what happened. You would have said to her, make sure that you take the stuff from the car, and she wouldn't have, unless she's an idiot, she wouldn't have, when she saw the plaintiff coming up with the extra drinks, she would have said, do me a favor, just stay out here, put them down on this shelf where I put the other drinks. Don't walk into the house. She said nothing. She walked into the house and, in effect, held the door open so that she could deliver the other 1 or 2 drinks for your children. That's what happened.
To be continued.
Title: Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Now I want you to tell me why you forged her name to checks.
Because she asked me to do this.
She said to you, forge my name to a check.
Yes. She was saying she was going to put me in jail.
For forgery. Duh.
This is Judy Justice. Handyman Brandon Hall for check fraud and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin.
Hello, Judge.
Hi.
Case number 2046, Rapp versus Hall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Rapp, not a very difficult case. The defendant was a friend of yours / did some work for you. It's not really relevant how you met him. It was sort of through a social situation. And it is your claim that over a period of time, Mr. Rapp forged your signature to several checks.
Correct.
And then when confronted by the fact that you've discovered these forgeries and asked him for money, he filed a restraining order against you to keep you away from him, and you say that the restraining order was a false one, and you want to be compensated for having to deal with that.
I do. I missed work.
Just a second. So I'm going to deal with the restraining order first. When did you file a restraining order, Mr. Hall?
I believe it was the 17th of July.
Of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
So not so long ago. I'd like to see the paperwork that you filed in support, just the paperwork that you gave to the court in support of your restraining order, why you were asking for a restraining order.
Okay.
Don't tell me, is that what you filed with the court?
Yes.
I'd like to see.
Brandon hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy.
So let's just be clear. You filed all these documents with the court when you asked for a restraining order?
Yes.
Okay.
Judy reviews the documents.
Yeah, I've read some of the text messages, and you're aware of what the text messages say.
Yes.
I assume you're aware of what they say. Uncross your hands.
Oh, yes.
And that part of your application for damages as a result of filing a false restraining order is denied. You can't even suggest in a text message that you're going to do something violent in order to get him to pay money that you owe. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay, so as
Although
frustrated...
the restraining order was dismissed.
It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, I've read it, and some of your text messages sound threatening.
I was angry.
I understand you were angry. The question is not whether he should be granted a restraining order. I don't have to deal with that. I have to deal with the fact that in the text messages, you make certain threats. What if I could? And all that transpired at a time when the defendant reconciled with his wife and family. So, as I said, as a result of reading your text messages, I believe that Mr. Hall had the right to feel threatened and to file for a restraining order. Whether the court that heard the application for a restraining order felt that your behavior warranted a restraining order is another thing. But I can understand why he would file a restraining order to try to keep you away from him and his family.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Great! Now I want you to tell me why you forged her name to checks.
Because she...
$8,800 worth of checks. Now you had the right to file a restraining order
Because she asked me to do this.
because she asked you to forge her name to the checks.
Yes.
Okay, I want you to tell me when the first time she asked you to forge her name to a check. And I assume, just like you've kept all these documents,
Yes, ma'am.
you have a document to show me, just one. Because if you show me one, I would tend to think that there were more. So just show me one where she said to you, forge my name to a check.
Okay.
Take the money out and forge my name to a check. Don't say anything, just show me.
Leslie shakes her head.
Don't shake your head. It's annoying.
I believe this is the first one.
Okay, so in that one, she asks you to sign. Well, maybe.
Judy reviews a document.
What are you showing me?
The check?
I don't want to see the check. You know how you kept these text messages that you texted back and forth and back and forth? I want you to show me, because you're methodical, one time out of the 6, 7 times that you forged her name to checks, show me one time where she said to you in a text message, in an Instagram, in a pigeon note, where she said to you, take out a check from my checkbook and forge my name to it because I want you to have money. Just show me.
I don't have
Of
something
course
like
not.
that. No.
Of course
No,
not.
I don't.
Now, the first time you forged her name to a check was what month and year
I believe that it was December 9th.
of 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were you and Miss Rapp engaged in at that time that she told you to forge her name to a check?
Okay, so I'm an electrician, and I've been an electrician for 13 years. I've been doing side work all around my county, and there's a handful of liquor stores that trust me that I can go and cash personal checks that I get paid for doing my side work. Miss Rapp knew that, and...
Don't tell me what she knew.
Okay, all right. So she would be locked out of her account for one reason or the other, and she would ask me, like on a Friday, she wouldn't be able to get access her money, and I knew she had money.
Well, she couldn't get access to her money, so these weren't your checks you wrote out. You wrote out her checks. It'd
Right.
be frozen out whether you went to take out money or she went to take out money.
Right. Also, on a Friday, the liquor store would not deposit these checks until Monday. So I cashed these checks for her to give her cash.
Did you ever have sex with the plaintiff?
No.
Do you think she wanted to have a relationship with you?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
What makes you think so?
Well, the
text message.
The text message.
The text message that she said to you. And who is Robert?
Is her ex-boyfriend?
And do you know Robert?
I do.
How do you know Robert?
I'd known Robert for 20 years. Been friends.
And when did you start doing work for the plaintiff? Before or after Robert? Is not an answer.
It was after.
It was after.
Yes.
Okay. Give me an idea of when. You've cashed the first check in December of 2021. Give me some idea of when you were aware of the fact that the plaintiff and your dear friend of 20 years were no longer an item. Is not an answer.
I don't know what month he was arrested. So
Arrested for?
June, maybe?
Arrested for?
I don't know his charges.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
I want to see only with those forged checks, you would have put the money in her Venmo account.
Your Honor, I don't see where I have the ones that I deposited in her account. These seem to all be her depositing into my account.
Duh. You were happy she left.
No, ma'am.
You wanted her to stay.
No, ma'am.
Then you were happy she left.
No.
Then you're a masochist. Somehow you want to live with somebody.
I am.
You want to live with somebody who's messy, floods your apartment, weren't a good fit, and yet you were happy with that.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Leslie and Brandon.
Leslie Rapp claims her former friend and handyman, Brandon Hall, forged her checks and filed a false restraining order against her. Brandon says he had Leslie's permission to write the checks.
I'm just telling you, I don't believe that you don't know the charges of somebody who you were friendly with for 20 years and who was arrested. I don't believe that you don't know, because it belies credulity, okay?
That's fine.
So before your dear friend of 20 years was arrested, did you ever cash any checks for her?
No.
After Robert was arrested?
He nods.
Yes. Did you ever do any work for her before Robert was arrested?
No.
When did you and your wife separate? Month and year?
Maybe February of 21.
And were you still together with Robert in February of 2021?
Yes.
And when did you and the lovely Robert separate?
Robert was removed from my life August 11th of 21.
The defendant acknowledges in his answer that he forged your name, not only your name, your signature, but wrote out checks, actually wrote out in his own handwriting, checks in the amount of $8,800.
Yes.
And he acknowledges that, but he says they were because you asked him to, or it was for work he did for you. Those were your answers, right?
No, these checks were not for any jobs that I did for her. They were strictly to get access to some of her money during the weekends and stuff. And then when she was out of town as well.
Get her access to her money and when she was out of town.
When she was out of town,
if you cashed her checks when she was out of town, how did she get money?
I Venmo'd the money to her.
Okay, so that you have a record of, that you Venmo'd the money to her.
Yes.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it.
Here you go.
He produces documents.
Here's all the Venmo deposits. Her sending me
To
money.
her. No, not just a second. Try not to confuse me. I'm an old person. I want to see only the monies, because she's going to show me the checks that you forged. And contemporaneously, which is a close period of time, with those forged checks, you would have put the money in her Venmo account.
On a couple of different occasions, yes.
Just a second. Just show me those cases. She's going to take out the checks that you forged. And those checks should coincide date-wise with the Venmo transactions. Am I doing that right?
Yes.
Venmo.
Yes.
Your Honor, I don't see where I have the ones that I deposited in her account. These seem to all be her depositing into my account.
Duh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I do have.
So let us understand this, Ms. Rapp. Did you ever give him permission? The answer is yes or no.
No.
Did you file a police report?
Yes, I did.
You did. I'd like to see a copy of the police report.
I haven't.
Then we're in good shape.
Leslie hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Mr. Hall, how many weekly payments did you make to her on Friday?
I have a list of that from.
From February.
This is from Mrs. Rapp in.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you, how many payments did you make for writing these unauthorized checks to her?
Seven.
And what was the total amount of those checks?
$3,700.
Why in the world would you pay her $3,700?
If you could look in those messages, I was being. She was saying she was going to put me in jail for doing things.
For forgery.
Okay.
For forgery.
Right.
And you asked her not to.
Right.
And you said, I'll pay you back.
Right.
Right. I'll pay you back. Just give me some time. I have 2 kids to support.
Right.
Is that what you said to her?
Yes.
$8,800 judgment for the plaintiff. We're done here.
This is adjourned.
Well, I'm happy about the outcome because
I think it's bogus, man.
I really need the money.
Because she started all this craziness as soon as I went back to my wife.
There was never a relationship between the two of us.
After that, when she started doing all this, is when I went and filed for a restraining order.
He did that as a direct retaliation for the police report I filed.
She's gonna have to call somebody else for sure.
It's definitely time for a new handyman.
Judy and Sarah.
Just a casual note. Yeah. I have been with my husband, your grandfather, for almost 50 years. And we each have our bank account, and then we have a joint bank account. I have never either asked him or given him permission to sign my signature to a check.
Yep.
He hasn't never asked or given me permission to sign his signature on one of his checks. Mm-hmm. Now, we may ask each other, listen, it's busy, I'm going to go through these checks. We're making all these checks out to the doorman and to Christmas time and whatever, and then I'll sign them. Just doesn't happen. So
doesn't make sense.
Right. And so what it is to any job that you do, whether it's a lawyer or a judge, you bring with you your own common sense and your own life's history. I hope that works, because I cannot imagine somebody saying, write out a check for yourself. I don't know you, we're not involved, we're not married, go help yourself to a check and write it out. I can't imagine.
Case number 2029, McCrae versus Onwaka. All parties, please step forward.
Brittany McCrae is suing her former roommates, Lulu Onawaka, for a rental deposit, moving costs, and lost wages.
Ms. McCrae, you were looking for a room, and you rented a room in defendant's apartment. It didn't work out. You were unhappy. She was unhappy. you moved out. And now you want return of rent, deposit, moving costs, lost wages, and emotional distress. She also said, didn't work out. We didn't like each other. It just wasn't a good fit. So you were happy she left. That's either a yes or a no. You were happy she left.
No, ma'am.
You weren't happy you wanted her to stay.
No, ma'am.
Then you were happy she left.
No, ma'am, I wasn't happy she left.
Oh, let me see. Let's see.
Judy consults a document.
Okay, this is what you say. Brittany, that would be you.
Yes.
This is your answer. Was messy, played loud music, brought friends in unannounced, damaged the washing machine which flooded our apartment, and without consent offered to adopt someone's dog. After that, I let her know we weren't a good fit and would not be renewing her lease.
No.
Now, that's what you said.
We'll not be renewing the lease for the apartment.
No. Doesn't matter. I just read you something. I read you your answer. Now, does that sound somebody that was happy with their roommate?
I define happiness for myself. I've lived in co-living where I've had to live with people I do not like.
What?
And make it work is what I'm trying to say. So
No.
that wasn't the issue.
The damage she's referring to was actually me attempting to change the locks on the door. I was trying to change the lock because during my time away, all of my belongings were still in the property.
Did you damage the door?
Brittany smirks. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Brittany and Lulu.
Brittany McRae claims her former roommate, Lulu Onawaka, owes for a rental deposit, moving costs, and lost wages. Lulu is countersuing for property damage and storage fees.
Brittany was messy, played loud music, brought friends in unannounced. She damaged the washing machine, flooded the apartment, and without my consent offered to adopt someone's dog. After that, I let her know we weren't a good fit and wouldn't be renewing the lease. That's what you wrote. Do you want me to show that to you?
No, you are right, and that is what I wrote.
Absolutely. Well, then I don't know why you have a passive-aggressive attitude, because I'm the only one who's passive-aggressive. Then you were happy she left.
No.
Okay, well, you're ridiculous. Then you're a masochist. Somehow you want to live with somebody. You want to live with somebody who's messy, loud, floods your apartment, weren't a good fit, and yet you were happy with that. And I don't have to define happiness.
Yes.
I know that if I lived with somebody who was messy, sometimes loud.
Okay. So each is
You broke the dishwasher and flooded the apartment because they put regular soap instead of dishwashing soap into the apartment, then it sort of bubbles all over. Now, unless I was either married to that person or they were one of my family, I wouldn't be happy with them. If I had a tenant like that, I would say, oh my God, what did I get myself into? I want out of this.
Okay.
But you were happy.
No, I wasn't. I stand on that.
Okay, then you weren't happy.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's what I asked you. You could have saved me all this dramatics. All right, so there we go. You were living in a room.
Yes.
You paid a month's rent.
I did.
Okay, how much rent did you pay?
I paid $1,300 and a $300 deposit.
And you lived there for about a month.
I lived there for 26 days.
And things didn't work out. You had a big argument with her back and forth, and as a matter of fact, according to you, you left for a couple of days.
I did.
Yes, because you were unhappy there and felt threatened, felt uncomfortable, whatever
Very
it was.
much so.
So you left for a couple of days. And when you came back, what was your intention when you came back?
So,
No, look, not so. Look at me. You left because you were unhappy. You came back. What was your intention when you came back?
I never left because I was unhappy. I left because I was evicted from the property by the defendant.
Just a second. So you didn't leave the apartment after this disagreement?
Yes,
You did?
I did.
Okay. Where did you go?
I actually stayed with my friend.
So you left?
Yes.
On what date?
I left on June 1st.
You left the residence and stayed with your friend?
Yes.
And you stayed with your friend after the argument?
Yes.
Why?
I'm able to provide some backstory on
I don't need any backstories. I'm just trying to get to a mindset of why the two of you think that you have a lawsuit against each other. Why do you bother wasting your own time, wasting precious court time when you weren't happy in the apartment, you paid for a month's rent. Certainly, you're entitled to your security back if you caused no damage to the apartment. You lived there practically a month, and you're not entitled to any more money because she didn't give you 30 days' notice because you were just as happy that
She had abandoned properties.
What?
She had abandoned properties.
Okay.
She damaged the door, and I lost my deposit as well because of that.
Just a second. Damaged what door?
So,
No, just not so. Okay. Damaged what door? That's a door. An outer door, a door to her room?
Yes.
The door to her room?
Yes, she did that.
You have a photograph of the damage.
Yes,
I'd like to see it.
Lulu looks through a pile of documents.
Please bear with me. I'm going to find it quickly.
The damage she's referring to was actually me attempting to change the locks on the door. I left after I had been informed by the
Just
defendant.
a second. So you acknowledged the door was damaged while you were trying to change the lock on the door?
I was trying to change the lock because during my time away, all of my belongings were still in the property, correct?
Listen to me. Did you damage the door?
No. The doorknob was removed, but the door is not damaged.
The lock was removed?
The lock was removed.
All right, I'd
so
like
that
to see.
the defendant would no longer have access to my room, to which she actually did enter my room while I was away.
Okay.
I left because the defendant actually informed me that I would need to get out by that date. After requesting a full month of rent, despite me not having even lived in the property for the original month of rent that I had paid for.
I don't care. Unless you can show me the damaged door and how much it was to repair it, and I want to see how much it was to repair it.
I don't have how much it was, but here is the lease agreement, and we paid $2,900 to be here for the security deposit.
Oh, she just took this out. That's nonsense. That's nothing.
I wasn't still able to get my deposit
Nothing.
back.
The agreement
I got
that I...
$1,700 back.
Understand this.
Okay.
This is not damage to the door. She took out a cylinder. All you have to do is put it back. Unless you have a receipt for somebody putting it back, you get
No, but
nothing.
that's what I'm saying. We didn't put
you
it
get
back.
You get nothing.
It's a maintenance request at the property.
I didn't ask you a question. You're entitled to your $300 security back.
That wasn't the security. That was for key and cleaning, and she was aware of it.
$300 security deposit. By the way, are you allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment? That's a yes or a no?
No.
Just a, hey.
No,
hey,
no,
don't look down. Don't look down. So the answer is you are not allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you are not allowed to sublet rooms in your apartment. She gets a deposit back. We're done. Thank you very much.
Court is adjourned.
I didn't concede to her requesting me to clean out a garbage at the apartment, and at that point, she lost her entire senses and asked me to move out of the apartment. Always pick your roommates more carefully.
Okay, so I don't have anywhere to go really on this case except to suggest that people who feel good, look like they have a job, look as if life is otherwise okay for them, and they move into this rental situation, which is very difficult. I never could understand it, to move in with a stranger in an apartment and just rent a room when you don't even know whether you're compatible, whether you have similar interests, similar time schedules. I always thought that was fraught with danger, and it keeps me in business here. But here you have two women that were both unhappy. You had an unhappy tenant, an unhappy landlord. You had a lease, but both of them were unhappy. It really didn't cost either of them anything. Plaintiff says she didn't get 30 days notice, so she should be compensated for $5,000 on her moving costs and storage
fees, some other things. It seemed like a wash to me when I read the papers. And to have your happiness after the end of constant struggle or battle with each other seemed like a win to me, but apparently it wasn't enough for them.
Apparently not. Well, unfortunate. But she's entitled to her security deposit back. She lived there for almost a month. She paid a month's rent.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Me and my sister, we had a close relationship.
And then, unfortunately, something happened.
Video footage.
She's attempting to run me over with her car. Then she reaches for a taser.
I don't own a taser.
I think the whole thing is foolish.
This is Judy Joanne Gaines for car damages and harassment.
Judge Judy enters the courtroom.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2003, Gaines versus Gaines.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Miss Gaines, you and the defendant are half-sisters. You share the same father.
Yes.
Have you always had a relationship with your father?
Yes.
And you, Miss Gaines?
Yes.
There came a time when you were living with your dad.
Yes.
From when to when were you living with your dad?
From October 2018 to December 2021.
And who was living at the same residence?
It was me, my dad, and a roommate, my dad's roommate.
No children?
Yes, my children stayed there as well. I do apologize.
Well, that's important.
Sorry.
How many children?
I have 4 daughters.
How old are they?
11, 10, 4, and 5.
Were you working?
Yes.
From 18 to 21?
I stopped working in November 2019, and I started back working October 21.
What kind of work do you do?
I work for United Healthcare. I'm a customer service rep for Optum.
Just so that I get a sense, because this is a family issue, you clearly had a life before you moved to your father's house in 2018. Could you tell me why you moved into your father's house in 2018?
Because where I was living, the house was smaller, and my dad felt like he wanted me and my children to be in a safer environment.
So you had an ongoing, constant relationship with him?
Yes.
And Ms. Gaines, tell me about you. Did you ever live with your father?
I lived with my father when I was in the 9th grade.
But not since you were a child?
No.
Did you maintain a relationship with him?
I did. Me and my father do mechanic work together most of the time, so I'm at his house a lot.
Was that a business that you had together?
Just more so for fun, family time. If he needed help, I could go in and assist him. I just used that as extra time.
And that was consistent and up through 2021?
Yes.
So you saw your sister there? Because she was living there with her children?
Yes. On occasion, though, her and her kids would be out more often. I would just go and visit my dad when the house was empty and he needed more company and help and assistance because he was there alone.
How old was he?
He's about 24 years older than me, so I believe he's like 59 now.
Did you see your sister at your father's house in the years that you were living there?
She came to visit, yes.
And they worked together on mechanical stuff?
I never saw that. Me and my sister, we had a close relationship, so she would come over and hang out with me all the time.
Okay, good. And then, unfortunately, something happened. You want to tell me when that was and what it was?
October, I believe it was the 30th, me and my sister, we got into an altercation.
Tell me the beginnings of it, because each of you claimed that the other harassed, claimed your sister assaulted you, and both of you claimed some damage to automobiles that was caused by the other during the course of these altercations. Okay, so tell me what happened in October.
So the Thursday prior to the 30th, which was a Saturday in October, my sister was supposed to come to my house and do my kids' hair. But that was something that I had just asked her to do. Like we said, I stayed with my dad. They were having some issues, so I...
Who was having issues?
My sister and my dad.
Were you having issues with your father around that time?
I was told I was having issues with my father at that time by my sister Jessica.
Did you discuss it with your father?
I did, and I found out that that was a lie that Jessica had told him, was making up lies to make us not like each other.
Okay, so there was some bad feeling about that.
Right, so I was inviting her over because she was struggling, and I needed my kids' hair done for picture day. So
she was what?
Struggling.
Struggling.
Financially.
Okay.
So I offered to pay her to do my kids' hair. My dad did inform me that she wasn't able to come to the house, that I needed to go to her house. And I don't really know what her situation was like over there, so I let my dad know I was uncomfortable. And I also let her know our dad said it was not okay for you to come over here with us today. And he wanted an apology.
He wanted an apology?
Yes.
From her?
Yes.
Is your father well?
He has diabetes and...
Okay, but there's nothing preventing him from coming to court. Okay, well then you can't tell me what he told you because that's hearsay. Did your sister come over to the house on October 30th?
Yes.
Approximately what time?
I believe 11:30 in the morning.
Had you had a conversation with her that morning and told her not to come over?
Yes.
Did you tell her why?
Oh, I can't speak on it because he's not here.
No.
I don't.
My question is, did you tell your sister why?
Yes.
What did you tell your sister?
That our dad would not want her there.
Is that what she told you?
That is what she told me.
Did you ask her why?
I did.
What did she tell you?
She told me that my dad was under the impression that I was hanging out with drug dealers and dangerous people, and that he didn't want me around.
Did you call your father?
I did.
And you had a discussion with him?
I did.
Were you invited over to the house?
I called...
That's either a yes or a no?
No.
So now you have information, whether accurate or not, that you weren't welcome in your father's house for whatever reason, or for the reason that was articulated to you. You called your father to confirm that, and your father did, in fact, confirm that.
He confirmed that there was a issue between Jessica and I, and that we needed to resolve it. He was not going to get involved with it. But he did not confirm that I was denied access to his house.
Well, just from my information, what did you think the issue was between you and your sister?
she was lying to my father.
Well, no, your father didn't say that your sister's lying to me. Your father had to have indicated to you that these are the things that I'm being told, and you have to resolve that with your sister.
Yes.
But your father told you not to come to the house.
No, he did not tell me not to come to the house.
Did he suggest you come to the house?
Neither. He neither suggested I come or not to. He just said I should
resolve it with her.
Yes.
Okay. And you went over there that morning?
I stated to her that I would come over and resolve it right then and there.
You told him?
They were both on the phone. Okay. I called his cell phone.
Did your sister, then your sister said, I'm going to come over, and you knew she was coming?
Yes, she said.
Okay, that's a yes. You knew she was coming, so this wasn't a surprise visit. You knew she was coming. Now tell me what happened when she got there.
So when she gets there, me and my dad were standing outside already. She gets out of her car. I approach her car. It's a little back and forth, and then...
No, tell me the back and forth, and try to keep your voice up.
Sorry. So when I approach her car, she jumps out the car. Then she reaches for a taser. So then I close her in the door. And once my dad, we're outside together, he pulls me off the door. She then takes her car, it's a video. She's attempting to run me over with her car. She did manage to run over my foot. I then went in the house. I got a broomstick, like an attachment, like the broom wasn't attached. But I got the broomstick, and I went outside, and I started swinging it at her car. And I damaged the hood of her car and the window.
And then she left?
No. She stayed at the house. I went back in the house. She called the police, and I'm not sure what happened after she called the police.
Well, did the police arrive?
My dad informed me that we didn't know what she was telling the police, that when police come, everybody gets arrested. So he said, I had something to do that day, go get a facial at an appointment at 1 o'clock. So I just went ahead and headed off to that.
So you left?
Yes.
You knew she called the police and you left?
Yes.
Leaving your dad to explain to the police what happened?
My dad didn't talk to the police neither.
So they just came?
As far as I know, they just came, knocked on the door. When I called to see if there was a report made, the police said no report was made. That was it.
Okay, fine. So the damage that was done to your car was done with a broomstick handle?
Yes.
To her car?
Yes.
By you?
Yes.
Now, Miss Gaines, did you have a taser in your car?
I don't own a taser.
And when you got to the house, your father was standing with her?
No.
Where was he?
He was exiting the house. She was already, when I pulled up, she was exiting the house.
But he was outside?
She was already at the sidewalk when I pulled up. Okay. So he was at the door.
Well, why don't you tell me your version of what happened when you pulled up?
I pulled up. I was recording the incident on my phone. I don't have that recording because it was on Instagram. I didn't want the embarrassment to go on any longer. I tried to screen record it, but it didn't save.
Okay, so you don't have video?
I don't have that full video. I do have a short video of her actually attacking the car with the stick that she came out of the house with, though. So I do have that
I'd like
portion.
to look at it.
I have the full video.
Okay, I'd like to see hers, and thank you for telling me you have the full video.
Okay.
I think the full video might be more sufficient because I have bits and pieces of the video.
Kevin, I'm going to take both. Would you pull up the video that you have on your phone?
We're going to go over to my family member's house right now to find out why we want to fight me. She has literally did everything in her possibility to make my dad my enemy. She has moved into his house, told him I'm on drugs. My family have come up with the excuse that I'm on drugs, and that's why nobody has come to see me. Yeah, do it. I'm on live.
Video footage of Jessica hitting Joanne's car with a broom handle.
First, Miss Gaines, you do understand that you damaged your sister's car?
Yes.
Okay, and that you have to pay for that. Your tires had already been flattened how many times?
3.
Do you have a bill for those tires?
When I went to court, when she was suing me for her car, I just took the receipts as proof, and when the judge took it, I never got it back.
No.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jessica and Joanne.
Jessica Gaines claims her sister, Joanne Gaines, vandalized her car and harassed her. Joanne is countersuing for an assault and filing a false restraining order against her.
Okay. Miss Gaines, you do understand that you damaged your sister's car?
Yes.
Okay, and that you have to pay for that?
She sued me for the damages already.
She sued you. Did she get the damages?
Yes.
Oh.
She was granted.
Okay.
Jessica hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Okay, so you sued her already and you got a judgment.
Yes, for that incident.
For this damage.
But not the damage that would happen on December the 12th.
Just a second.
Sorry.
Okay, so we don't have to deal with this damage. And subsequent to this damage that you caused to your sister's car, you had damage to your car.
Yes.
And tell me what that was.
So on 3 different occasions, she came to my house and popped both of my tires on the driver's side of my car.
Okay. And this was after October 30th?
Yes.
You'd been living at your father's house for 3 years with your children. During that 3-year period of time, was your car ever damaged?
No.
Did you ever have tires popped on the car?
No.
Did you confront your sister at any time about the damage to your car?
No.
According to this, you have a video of her near your car.
Yes.
On one of those occasions.
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Before I even look at it, Ms. Gaines, you received a judgment and were compensated for the damage to your car caused by your sister. Mm-hmm. Do you acknowledge that you or someone acting on your behalf flattened her tires?
One tire.
Okay. So you say you flattened them one time?
One tire, one time.
And when?
Right before November.
Okay. And what did you flatten the tires with?
A knife.
So
just
you
one
slashed.
tire.
She did say tires, didn't
just
she?
One tire.
She said one tire, one time.
Okay. And that was in November?
Beginning of November.
Did you pay for that tire?
I did not.
And do you have photographs of the flattened tires?
Yes.
I'd like to take a look at them. How many times were they flattened?
My tires were flattened 3 times.
Tires. How many tires the first time?
2.
How many tires the second time?
Sorry, I just want to make sure. 2.
How many tires the third time?
2.
And you filed a case against your sister for damage to your car on what date?
This is the court case I filed for damages for my car. Well, originally I just filed for...
When did she file the case, I'm sorry, against you for damages to her car?
December 16th.
And your tires had already been flattened how many times?
3.
Do you have a bill for those tires?
Yes. Well, I had took the receipt before, so I don't have the receipt, but I have the police report where the police...
No, I want to see the receipt.
I'm sorry.
I need damages. You want damages, you have to show me that you spent money to replace the tires and how much they cost.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When I went to court, when she was suing me for her car, I just took the receipts as proof, and when the judge took it, I never got it back.
Did you countersue her for the tires when she sued you?
No.
Well, why would the judge take your receipts for the tire?
Because he took all of our evidence at the end of the case.
No. The only reason a court would take your evidence is if you had a counterclaim for your damage.
I'm new to the court thing, so I didn't know to countersue. So when I had to file paperwork, so when I went to court on our court date, I was just letting the judge know, like, look, she did these damages to me. I didn't file a countersue claim. I didn't know I had to do that.
The judge looked at it and didn't return that to you?
He said any evidence that we wanted to be taken into consideration to leave it with him, and I left it with him.
And what kind of tires did you purchase?
I believe they say Bridgestone on them.
And what's the name, make, and model of your car?
It's a 2005 Cadillac Escalade.
Can you get me any information about that, Sarah? Cost of cars, 2000 Escalade, what kind of tires it uses? Okay, so the harassment that you're talking about by your sister, because that's the other part of your claim, the vandalism is one, which Sarah is looking up now. The damages for harassment were the tires being slashed, is that right?
A part of it, yes.
Well, what's the other part?
Well, when I filed for the restraining order, the judge said it sounded like a family matter, so it didn't.
So the court dismissed it?
Yes. So on December 24th, which was Christmas Eve, I woke up and my tires were popped again. So I then asked my dad, is it okay if I record you reaching out to my sister, asking her to leave me alone so that if I do go to court again, I have some evidence? Because again, my dad didn't come to court back then. And he was like, I don't think I can do that because then she'll start messing with me and I can't afford to be down in the morning.
Okay.
And then I was just like, okay, well, at that point, I didn't feel safe there no more because she had already called Children's Services on me. And then every 2 weeks, my tires were being popped. I really couldn't afford it.
I got it. Do you recall how much you spent for each tire?
Each tire was $120.
So you spent a little over $700?
Yes.
Okay.
That's about right from what I'm seeing.
Okay. So, Ms. Gaines, let me tell you how I'm going to rule on her request for damages for her car. But I believe that some things make sense and some things don't. And if somebody has an MO of slashing tires as their reaction to having their car damaged, and if you acknowledge doing it and doing it one time, it is not a giant leap from my imagination that you caused the same damage to all 6 of her tires. I don't find that a giant leap. I think the whole thing is foolish, and I actually don't see the basis for coming out with a broomstick, except that you were angry and lashing out at her car. You could have stayed in your house and called the police. There was no reason for you to come out of the house at all, except to confront your sister. You had an application for a restraining order against your sister?
This is correct.
And you had a trial on that?
This is correct.
And you were granted a restraining order?
Yes.
For how long?
6 months.
And that expired?
It hasn't expired yet. This was an incident. It was caused by her coming to my house after court.
Okay.
And causing more damage.
Okay. So I think that she had the right to file for a restraining order against you because part of your action is filing false restraining order. Part of your case was for vandalism to your car, but that was already done in another court.
That was part of the first case. We've been going since October.
Okay. How did she ask you to jump out of the vehicle?
She stated, hop out. I said, okay, I guess
well,
we're hopping out.
That was sort of silly. If somebody said to you, hop out, I would stay in the car.
I'm trying to talk to my dad.
Well, you talk to your dad later when things have calmed down and you're not high on weed.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jessica and Joanne.
Jessica Gaines accuses her sister, Joanne Gaines, of slashing her tires. Joanne claims she needed to file a restraining order against Jessica.
Okay, let's get to the assault part of your claim that I would like to hear. First, I watched the video, and I have to tell you, Ms. Gaines, that in my judgment, what you took a big whiff of was a blunt. Is that what they call that?
That is.
Okay. And that's what was in the video, and that's while you were on your way over there and very, very angry and driving a car and lost in a sea of smoke. Do you understand? And I think that that's both foolish, bad judgment, dangerous, and dangerous to drive a car that way.
I agree, I'm sorry.
And shows an absolute lack of judgment. So I would think about that kind of behavior again if I were you. You want to tell me when and under what circumstances your sister assaulted you and where you were hospitalized or treated medically?
When I pulled up to the house, she had asked me to jump out of the vehicle. I was...
How did she ask you to jump out of the vehicle?
She was standing on the sidewalk. I was putting the car in park, and she stated, hop out. And I said, okay, I guess we're hopping out. Well, that was
sort of silly. If somebody said to you, hop out, I would stay in the car.
I'm trying to talk to my dad. I have a...
Okay. Well, you talk to your dad later when things have calmed down and you're not high on weed.
I understand that you...
You got the damages for your car by way of a judgment. I've awarded you for the tires $726. $726 for the tires. That's the judgment of the court. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I only slashed her tires one time, one tire, like I stated.
It was fair.
There's no receipts that were presented, so they were never damaged.
We got it, we got the proof, so.
She stated that I ran her over by the car, but she was walking back into her house. How are you walking if your foot got ran over by a car?
It's embarrassing.
Jealousy, maybe. I don't feel that way. This is my younger sister. I love my younger sister. I don't wish that this wasn't even going on.
I really hope we have a better relationship going forward. I hope this is all over and behind us.
Yeah, there's no more family for me, I guess.
You know, we're siblings. Siblings go through stuff.
Judy and Sarah.
So, my Sarah, the case to me, you know, we've seen it before, siblings fighting, very unfortunate. So I'm going to ask you a question because I know I come from separate generations, 3 down from you.
Okay.
And I've already accepted the fact that many states in this country have voted in favor of legislation which suggests that marijuana is a legal substance and decriminalizing it. Fine, just like alcohol.
Yes.
That's what my grandchildren tell me. You drink alcohol, we do something else. But am I crazy? Because I watched that video, and to me, that was the most interesting part of the video. And then she took this big cigar thing, which I found out what those were called back in my family court days. And it's interesting that I could recall it, called a blunt. Tell me what you think. Would it be no different if she took a big bottle of vodka from the passenger seat and took a couple of swigs before she got to a fight?
Yeah.
Okay, I want your take on that.
Yeah, even as a different generation, there's responsibilities and regulations and rules, the same with alcohol. So while it might be legalized, decriminalized in many states, you still have to follow the rules and act responsibly. I think there are different physiological effects.
Would you say that there was any jurisdiction in this country where you could smoke marijuana while you were driving?
I think it's still considered under the influence, which is just as bad as driving under the influence of alcohol. So I think it impairs your judgment all the same. And showing up to a fight high, I think, is equivalent to showing up drunk. And
even if you were going to a party.
Yeah. You're behind the wheel of tons of weight and something that could be used as a deadly weapon. So you got to be as sharp as you can.
Yeah. Just from this interaction, you're absolutely right legally, but I'm not getting the outrage.
No, outrageous. I think it is. Okay. I think driving under the influence of marijuana, alcohol, outrageous.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you feel that way.
Are you a victim of an assault? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Credits.
You had a son, and sadly, he drowned.
This year.
His friends started a GoFundMe page.
My daughter took everything. The reason I'm here today is not because of the GoFundMe.
That's exactly why she's here.
Shh.
It's always been about the money.
This is Judy. Carol Crane is suing her daughter, Jessica Crane, for personal items and money from a GoFundMe fundraiser.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy.
Hello, Judge. Case 2119, Crane versus Crane.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Miss Crane, this is a very sad case. This is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
And I don't know how many children that you have, but I know that you had a son who was in medical school, who was, how old, 25 years old?
30.
30. Sounds as if he was a popular young man. He was in an outing with friends, and sadly, he drowned.
Yes, he did.
And that happened,
women.
just a second, and that happened when?
That happened July 29th of this year.
This is what the case is about. His friends, in his memory, started a GoFundMe page.
Correct.
And there is approximately $40,000 in that GoFundMe page.
There was, yes.
I said approximately.
Yes.
There was. And your daughter is, for want of a better word, in charge of that Facebook page GoFundMe proceeds.
Correct.
And it is your claim that as the next of kin, because he died without a will, you are entitled to some or all of that Facebook page.
It doesn't even matter about the GoFundMe funds. I mean, that would be nice in a perfect world, but my daughter took everything. From the day my son passed, when they found his body at the river, the coroner gave her the keys to his truck, and she went to his apartment and emptied it. So I didn't get my chance to be Josh's mom for the last time. I didn't get to empty his apartment.
I can't cure that, madam.
No.
I can't cure that.
No.
And you can't put any sort of a value on anything that your daughter might have taken from that apartment because you don't know what was there.
Correct.
So I can't help you with that. In a perfect world, maybe she would have gone with you to the apartment, but she didn't.
Correct.
Based upon what I read, you were not there during the search for your son or the discovery of his body. Is that correct?
I was at home.
Okay. And your daughter was there?
Yes, she was.
And I assume that you were close to your brother?
Absolutely close to my brother.
Just curious, what prevented you? You were notified that your son was missing. What prevented you from going there?
My daughter was at the house the day Josh went missing, and we had my car torn apart. She left after they called her, and I definitely would have hitched a ride, but I didn't have a vehicle.
Your Honor, I got...
Just a second. Did you say she was at your house?
Yes, she was.
Well, then why didn't you go with her?
They didn't call till after she had left, apparently, and rather than come back and get me...
You mean she left to go someplace else?
She left to go home. Yeah, we were working on my car. She left to go home, and she got a call from Search and Rescue. I hadn't been answering my phone.
Oh, well, that's a different story. You hadn't been answering your phone. It wasn't as if nobody called you.
No, she didn't call.
It wasn't as if nobody called you. Did somebody call you?
Right, from search and rescue, yes.
Somebody called you?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Crane, this is your problem. If your son passed away without a will, and I'm sure that somebody else, maybe a professional has told you that, a legal professional has told you that, if your son passed away without a will, depending upon the laws in your jurisdiction, you, as his parent, might be construed as next of kin, and any property that he owned at the time of his death would transfer to you.
Right, correct, yes.
He didn't own the GoFundMe page at the time he died.
No, he did not.
So you don't get it.
Okay.
Any part of it.
Okay.
Your Honor,
the
she already
people
received funds from the GoFundMe as well.
Just a second. The people that set up the GoFundMe page, I assume, were classmates of your brothers?
Yes, they were his other fourth-year medical students that had reached out to me and asked if they could...
Don't tell me what they asked you. They set up a GoFundMe page. Do you have the paperwork for the GoFundMe page? I'd like to see it.
Jessica produces a document, then hands it to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Okay, so they raised $39,287.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anything that is in writing that makes you either the beneficiary of...
The organizer of...
Would you do me a favor, look it up?
Underneath the photo.
It does say that I am the beneficiary listed on there.
Thank you.
Sarah looks at the document, then hands it back to Judy.
You're Jessica.
I am.
Okay. Is organizing this fundraiser on behalf of Jessica Crane.
Mm-hmm.
That's her.
That has changed. Initially, it was for Joshua Crane, and with the legal
Just show me.
It's never been for...
Show me, just a second. Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
It wouldn't make any difference, but I'm willing to look at something that originally it was on behalf of somebody else.
The reason I'm here today is not because of the GoFundMe.
Your Honor, that's exactly why she's here. It's the money. It's always been about the money.
Carol shakes her head. Caption, coming up.
All right, how are you going to pay the note on a $14,000 truck?
I plan on returning to work. This incident has taken my job, believe it or not.
Actually, I don't believe it.
Your Honor, I work
just
3 jobs.
Just a second. Actually, I don't believe it.
And later today.
What kind of narcotics were found inside the vehicle?
It's alleged that it was a...
No, it's not alleged. This is a police report. I'm asking you, what kind of narcotics were found in your car?
A woman shakes her head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Carol and Jessica.
Carol Crane claims her daughter, Jessica Crane, is wrongfully keeping her son's property and money from his GoFundMe fundraiser.
This is your complaint. I'm suing the defendant, Jessica Crane, in the amount of $10,000 for my portion of my deceased son's GoFundMe account and personal items, including my son's guitars and his vehicle.
Correct.
Okay. Now you're not looking for his GoFundMe account.
I never really was, because I never knew the law on GoFundMe. I tried to find out and speak to someone about it and get legal advice, and I could never find anyone.
Well, it's very easy. He didn't own this property while he was alive, so you have no title to it. If they said that they're starting a GoFundMe page in the name of your son to be for the benefit of animal rescue, you wouldn't have any control over that.
No, it was meant for his funeral costs.
Just a second.
Which I also paid
It says,
for,
just
Your
a
Honor.
second, on behalf of Jessica Crane.
Right.
On behalf of Jessica Crane, just for my own curiosity, I'd like to know, your son was buried at some point?
He was cremated.
He was cremated.
And I have the receipts. I paid for his obituary, his cremation.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is, there were no serious funeral costs.
I got everything donated on my funeral.
That's not true as
Just a second. I'm asking you, Mrs. Crane, did you pay anything for your son's funeral?
No.
Okay, that's all. So it's not as if you had any outlay of money for this. You know what I find sort of troublesome? I find troublesome that his friends, because that sometimes happens, it's human nature, you feel so badly about something, you want to do something, and probably the easiest thing to do is to raise money. And the easiest thing for probably these people who are in their 20s and 30s is to start a GoFundMe page. I mean, it just would seem to me if they wanted to do a scholarship for him at the school, if they wanted to do something else, this is for those people out there who are watching, who are GoFundMe people. I've seen some of the more ridiculous ones, you know, and there are good-natured people out there who see these things and will donate $5 and $10. Oh, my goodness, they need funeral costs. Well, in this case, there were no issues, and almost all this money, $40,000, is left. What are you going to do with it?
So there's a couple things that I planned on doing with it. It's why the money has been sitting in account.
I just want the people who donated this money to know what you're going to do with it. It's not for you to buy anything for yourself.
Your Honor.
That would be ridiculous. That's not what was in their minds. So I want to know who I'm dealing with.
Your Honor, after all of Josh's expenses were paid for, which I paid for using that money. I am very close with the dean at UC Davis, who is a good friend of my brother's as well, and they have talked about setting up a scholarship fund for my brother, and I was going to donate a portion of that money back if UC Davis decides to set that up on his behalf. And then I also wanted to set up scholarship funds for my sons, who my brother was very close with.
So what you're telling me is you're going to give a little to UC Davis for a scholarship in his name, and you're going to use some for your two sons for their education.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really not what it was intended to do. I'm just telling you, it was not what it was intended to do.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's how GoFundMes are set up. People can set them up for an intended purpose, and they're used for anything.
But I'm just telling the people out there, before you spend money on a GoFundMe page, make sure it's going to go to a place where you want it to go and for the intended purpose you want it, which is to somehow celebrate the life of this young man that was cut short so tragically. And it would seem to me, Miss Crane, you don't have to do anything because they made you the beneficiary of this money. But it would seem to me that a stand-up person would take whatever is left of that and create a scholarship in his name at UC Davis, which is where he went to school. I can't order you to do that, but I'm just telling you, and everybody else out there, make sure if you have a good heart and a good spirit, you know where your money is going. Okay, so you're not entitled to any of the money. Now, did you take your brother's guitars?
I cleared out my brother's entire apartment.
Just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just answer the question. And how many guitars did you take?
3.
Where are they?
They're at my house.
Now, I don't have to do this. Would you like one of your son's guitars?
Yes, very
Would you
much
like
so.
one of your son's guitars? Do you have any of your son's guitars?
None.
Your Honor, my mom has a long history of substance abuse. She's bought gifts for me in the past, and she's pawned them off. And I would like to keep them in my family, so that's where they stay. So that's why I have possession of them, because I don't want them going to a pawn shop.
I was told I could visit one of my son's guitars at her home.
Just a second, do you play guitar?
No. I just want it because it's my son's, and I bought 3 of his guitars for him.
None of these guitars were purchased by her. They're very expensive guitars. My brother purchased.
I can't order her to do anything. I'm just asking her whether she would give you one of the guitars. And she said no. The next thing we have here is a vehicle. Now, tell me about the vehicle.
So Josh didn't have a lot. He was a 4th-year medical student. He has a truck, a Toyota, a 2019 Toyota Tacoma, that he still owes about $14,000 on. I have that here, $13,841.76 on. And at the time, his truck was at the boat launch where they found him. So when I met with the sheriffs, they gave me possession of the keys. They found his keys on his body, and they gave me his keys. So we brought the truck up to where we live in Northern California, took the truck up there, and it's been kept in storage until this is all sorted out. I personally wanted to keep the truck. I have the means to finance the truck in my name. I have the means to make a payment. She does not have the means to make a payment. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a driver's license. She can't provide insurance for it. I mean, she has driving.
That's not particularly relevant. There's $14,000 left on it. Are you employed?
I was until
just to say, the answer is either yes or no. Are you employed?
No.
All right, how are you going to pay the note on a $14,000 truck?
I plan on returning to work. This incident has taken my job, believe it or not.
Actually, I don't believe it.
Your Honor, I work 3 jobs.
Just a second. Actually, I don't believe it.
Okay.
So the answer is, if you can't afford to make the payments on this truck, and the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to be repossessed by the bank. Have you been making payments on the truck?
I have not made a payment.
Who is the finance company?
Credit union.
Where is the truck currently stored? Give me the address.
I don't have an exact address.
And later today.
You don't understand something, sir. Even though she was high on drugs, and passed out in her car, and you were not at fault, it's not windfall day. That's ridiculous, and I'm not stupid.
A man sighs. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Carol and Jessica.
Carol Crane claims her daughter, Jessica Crane, is wrongfully keeping her son's property and money from his GoFundMe fundraiser.
I want to see the paperwork on the loan.
Jessica produces a document, then hands it to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Okay. Sarah, when we finish with this case, call credit union, advise them who has the truck, let them go repossess the truck. We're finished here. Your case is dismissed.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Carol.
I had an addiction problem, and she's just angry. She's angry at me, and I've tried to make amends. I've tried to get this better, and she won't have it. My daughter got away with taking absolutely everything, and she wasn't entitled to it.
Judy and Sarah.
I think that if there's any lesson to be taken away, aside from the fact that you're not supposed to fight, when you lose somebody so young and so vital, the one innocent party is the credit union who loaned him the money to buy the truck. She's been hiding the truck now for 5 months, hasn't made a payment on it. The right thing to do is for her to turn that truck into the credit union, because I can't control that, except that I can advise the credit union where she is, who she is, that she has possession of the truck, and they should go and repossess it. Anyway, it's all very sad. Before you donate money to a GoFundMe page, make sure you know where the money is going. I think that that's the takeaway from this.
Case 2161, Shaheen versus Larry. All parties, please step forward.
Jamal Shaheen is suing his neighbor, Sabrina Larry, for car damage after Sabrina hit his vehicle and a house.
Mr. Shaheen, tell me where you live.
I live in Moorhead, Minnesota.
And on September 8th of this year, you parked your relatively new car that, according to you, you got a week before.
No, Your Honor.
I had just purchased a Sequoia a week before.
No, actually, it's not the new car. I mean, it's a used car, but I purchased it maybe a year before that, not exactly a week.
Okay. So it's not a new car, and you didn't purchase it a week before?
No.
But you parked it in front of your house. Do you have a photograph of the car?
I do.
I'd like to see it. And it is your claim that the defendant, Miss Larry, while under some sort of influence of some sort of substance, was driving her car, had an accident, hit your car, and caused it to move 25 feet, and it was damaged.
Yes.
And the damage to the car was the rear bumper.
Yep.
Not yep. Yes is the answer.
Yes.
Yes is the answer. Okay. Miss Larry, what time did you have your accident?
9 or 10 a.m.
On the 8th?
Yes.
Where were you coming from?
The grocery store.
Where were you going?
Home.
What kind of drugs had you taken?
I was taking Benadryl, prescription medication. That's all I had. That's what I took. And
Can I see the police report? You remember hitting his car?
No.
You remember the police coming to where your car stopped?
No, I don't remember the police coming.
Well, did the police come?
They did, yes.
And you don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
Were you taken to a hospital?
I was.
Do you have the discharge notes from the hospital?
I do.
I'd like to see it. What kind of narcotics were found inside the vehicle?
It's alleged that it was a...
No, it's not alleged. This is a police report. I'm asking you. What kind of narcotics were found in your car?
They said that they found a round blue pill that had an M30 on it. That's what it stated.
Sarah, do me a favor. Sure. Look up under illegal drugs, M30.
Sarah turns to Judy.
So M30s imitate oxycodone obtained from a pharmacy, but when sold on the streets, the pills routinely contain fentanyl.
Look up this name, Percocet. Mm-hmm. You smoke Percocet? How do you smoke Percocet? That's the only thing you remembered. You didn't remember the accident. Patient remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. That's what they say from your doctor.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Well, that's what they're saying. The history is provided by the patient. The history is limited by condition of the patient. History is limited because the patient does not remember the actual automobile accident. Remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. You think the doctor made that up? And they just so happened to have found this blue pill in your console in your car?
That's what they are saying.
Okay. You actually know you could have killed yourself. Yeah. Okay. And you don't remember anything about it because that's what you told them. You don't remember anything about anything after you smoked the little blue pill, which is what they said. So your car was moved. That's the damage to your car.
Yep.
So can I see the estimate for the damage, please?
I think
You gave it to me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Have you had the car fixed?
Just the back tail light that I had to put it on. I was trying to fix it, but don't have any money to do it.
Sarah, look up, please, would you?
I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, it's a 21-year-old car. It's got 226,000 miles on it. How much did you pay for it, sir?
I paid 10.
We're not going to spend 7 to fix it.
But that's how much it costs.
You find somebody to do it less.
Well, now I am without a car.
You're not without a car, sir. You put on the tail light so that you could drive it. This car is not drivable.
That car was dragged. That back axle, it shakes. I can drive it
Between
in a
2 and 5,000.
Between 2 and 5,000. You paid too much for the car, sir. You don't understand something, sir. Even though she was high on drugs and passed out in her car and you were not at fault, it's not windfall day. If you can buy the car for $2,000, buy an old 22-year-old car for $2,000. She's not paying you $7,000 to fix a $2,000 car. That's ridiculous. And I'm not stupid. Do we understand each other? Now, between
$2,500 and $5,000 based off of a 250,000 mile 2002 Toyota.
So you have to find somebody who's going to fix your car for $3,000, sir. That's $1,000 more than you could buy it for. We're done here. Judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Shamal, then Sabrina.
I would remember if I hit a car, and I didn't.
She ran into my car, run into a garage.
I know exactly what I took, and it definitely wasn't narcotics.
That area that I was living in, it's a really bad area. A lot of drugs are going on over there.
I'm very, very lucky. I'm very blessed. Like she said, I could be dead.
Sarah and Judy.
Just the audacity of some plaintiffs to come in here with an almost 22-year-old car with 275,000 miles on it. And I looked it up, and I even priced it on the positive end, the private party value, not a trade-in, and so forth. $7,000 he was comfortable asking the court for a car that's not even worth $7,000.
Yeah, he'll buy.
For a back panel.
Buy a new one. He was lying when I said, how much did you pay for the car? $10,000. That's ridiculous. And he just bought it, he said, a year ago. In the papers, he said he bought it a week before. So either it was a week or a year.
Either way, not worth $7,000.
Not worth $7,000.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
You lived with him in his home.
Yes, ma'am.
There was a dispute.
I received partial or no rent payments.
As a result of this harassment?
That's correct.
Ridiculous. Do you know my husband harasses me every day?
This is Judy Justice. Mark Michelonis is suing his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, for rent, a security deposit, and stolen property.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2066, Michelonius versus Robertson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Robertson, how long had you been living in your apartment prior to renting a room to the plaintiff?
I believe it was about 3 years.
You had been living there by yourself?
No, I had roommates previously.
When did the plaintiff move in?
I believe that it was January 1st of 2017.
2017?
It may have been 2018. It was the first, I forget. It was 2018. That's correct.
How long did he live there with you?
He lived there with me until September of 2021.
So far, that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So now let me understand this lawsuit. Mr. Robertson lived in his apartment for 3 years. You answered an ad for a room. You lived with him in his home as a tenant from January 2018 until September 2021.
Correct.
At that time, there was a dispute. We will get into that in a moment. There was a dispute. During part of that time, Mr. Michelonis, you did not pay rent. Is that correct? During COVID?
That's correct.
For what period of time did you not pay rent?
Well,
Give me how many months did not pay rent?
There was...
You don't have to think out loud. How many months between January of 2018 and September 2021 did you not pay rent? Give me a number. That's a number.
4 months. Some months I paid partial rent. But there were 4 months that I did not pay any rent.
4 months, no rent. And how many months did you pay partial rent?
I believe that would have been 4 or 3.
So for 7 months, you did not pay your rent. Paying partial rent is not rent. Now, my question to you, Mr. Robertson, is this is an apartment that you rent.
Yes.
Or rented. From January 2018 until September 2021, was your rent current?
My portion of the rent was current.
What do you mean your portion?
My portion that I was responsible for.
No, it's your apartment. You're responsible for the whole thing, Mr. Robertson.
Yes.
Okay? You're responsible for the whole rent. And if what you chose to do was to say to your landlord, listen, I have a roommate, I'm just paying my portion of the rent, my roommate isn't paying his, then your rent wasn't paid.
Yes.
And I assume that your rent wasn't paid for the same period of time that he didn't pay you his portion of the rent.
Yes.
Was it for any period of time greater than that? Greater than the 4 months or the 7 months that he didn't pay rent?
I went through my bank statements and they went back until, I believe, July of 2020. And that's as far back as my bank app lets me go.
Okay.
There were more months than that I received partial or no rent payments for.
From him?
From him.
I'm asking you about your landlord. If you didn't pay your landlord, you telling me your landlord didn't file an eviction against you?
There were several months that he did pay his full rent, and so that would have meant that the entire rent for that period.
Well, I know, but if the rent was not paid, did your landlord ever serve you an eviction notice?
No, there was an eviction moratorium in Alameda County at that point for unpaid rents due to COVID.
Gotcha. So that would it be a fair statement that you both took advantage of that? He took advantage of it, and so did you.
I wouldn't say that it was me trying to take advantage. I would just say it was my inability to cover the entire rent.
Your portion as well as his?
My portion was always covered.
Your portion was covered?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Michelonis, when did you move from month and year?
It was September of 2021.
And when did you leave there?
I believe it was the 3rd or 4th week of August of 2021.
So you both left the place at about the same time?
I left involuntarily, but yes.
Well, you left involuntarily, because that's what this case is about. Okay, so now I have the structure of it. Do you understand the structure of it?
I understand.
You understand the structure of it? I just want to make sure that people out there watching understand the structure of it. So you were the rentor, and you had an argument. It resulted in a protective order for somehow, some genius put him out of his own apartment because of these protective. You weren't in the hospital for anything, were you, as a result of an assault? No.
No.
You have no medical records there of being treated for any injury.
It was a harassment.
Just a minute. Do you know my husband harasses me every day? Every day. I couldn't think of evicting him. I mean, you do other things. So the answer is, you were never treated for any illness. You were never treated for anxiety at a hospital as a result of this harassment. As a result of your allegations, let us say of harassment, Mr. Robertson was ejected from his own home, from which you had not been paying rent, your portion that you were supposed to pay contractually with him for months because of COVID. Am I getting this story right? So far, I'm not finished yet, but so far, is there anything that I said was wrong?
I think that's pretty close. I mean,
okay, so that's pretty close. And now, what you are seeking here is, should I say, basically, and I hate that word, basically, but it's appropriate in this case. So all of those haters out there, she used basically, I don't care. It's appropriate here.
Whitney grins. Caption coming up.
And I put in the protective order that they were living with me, but they were moving.
No. They were living with you. You were living with them.
Well, yeah, we were living together.
No. You were living with the defendant. He wasn't living with you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Mark and Christopher.
Mark Michelonis claims his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, owes for rent, a security deposit, and stolen property. Christopher is countersuing, claiming Mark owes him for rent.
Now, what you're claiming in your lawsuit is that after a review of the copy of the underlying lease, you found that you were paying the vast majority of the rent.
Correct.
And so you want a return of that money.
That's correct.
Under what theory in the law?
Well, basically that he defrauded
No,
me.
now you can't use a basically.
Okay.
I want to know what theory is there in the law that says if I own a building and I lease to someone the whole building for $10,000, and then I find somebody who is prepared to pay me, and I have the first 2 floors of the building. 3rd floor is vacant. I find somebody who's willing to pay me $9,000 a month just for the top floor. That makes me a good business person. But unless there is something that prohibits him from doing that...
There is, Your Honor.
Show me.
There's a clause in the lease.
No, just show me.
Okay.
I'm a lawyer. I can read a lease.
So the sublease that I agreed to with him incorporates the entirety of this master
Just a second.
lease.
I'd just like to see it, please, sir. I'd just like to see it.
Mark hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
I assume you've highlighted what you want me to read.
Correct.
Okay. So what you're pointing to is that the landlord, his landlord, was not advised that you were subletting.
No.
Well, that's why signed by every tenant.
So that was one of the things, because if you look at the second lease, the one that was altered by Christopher to remove those areas so I wouldn't be aware, or I wouldn't be able to enforce them, was because he moved his boyfriend in without getting my consent. And so it says in there that he needs written consent. I understand that that doesn't apply to me, but he thought it did. And so he used whiteout on the other lease that I gave to you to obfuscate those terms.
I don't know how to put this to you, sir, other than to say, let me backtrack. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a web developer.
You work for yourself or for a company?
I do. I'm an independent contractor.
How long have you been doing that?
2 years.
Prior to that, what were you doing?
I was a system administrator.
For whom?
For a small company in San Francisco.
How long did you work for them?
6 years.
So for 2 years, you were an independent web developer, and you're still an independent web developer.
Correct.
And that's how you support yourself.
Right.
So you work out of your home.
Right.
And you've been working out of your home, you said, the last 2 years since 2020. This is 2022 or 19.
Right.
What do you mean, right?
So it would have been.
When you moved in 2018, were you an independent contractor?
No, I was going to school.
You were going to school?
Right.
For what?
I went to,
Just a second, for what?
For web technologies. It was a program for web development technology.
Did you go in person?
Yes. It was an intensive.
For how long?
It was 3 months. It was 8 hours a day.
Okay, so you went to school for 3 months.
Right.
During what period of time?
January 2018 to end of March 2018.
Okay, and at that time you were living with the plaintiff?
Correct.
Okay, so you needed a room for that 3-month period, and after that time, you supported yourself by being your own boss, by developing websites.
It took me a while to find a job, but yes.
What do you mean it took you time to find a job?
The interview process to get work. I was interviewing. It was very hard to break into that industry.
And so what did you do?
So I started taking on independent work.
So you never actually got a job outside of the independent work that you did?
That's correct.
So you support yourself by doing web development out of your home?
Yes.
So you used the home that you were living in, that room that you were renting, for not only your personal business, but you operated a place of business out of your residence.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Yes.
Yes. I just want you to see how ridiculous you are. You want $10,000 because you overpaid what you consider your fair share of the rent. That's not going to happen. You come here, you didn't pay rent for at least 7 months because of COVID. You were working according to you. You were a web developer, still are. It's 2022 because you have no other job other than being a web developer. You stopped paying rent. You moved out after he did, correct?
Well,
did you pay?
I'd like to correct
in the
something.
month that you lived there, when you had put him out of his house because you were
they were moving out. I did not put him out of the house.
I thought that was a protective order.
It was, but they were, and I put in the protective order that they were living with me, but they were moving, and so.
No. They were living with you. You were living with them.
Well, yeah, we were living together.
No. You were living with the defendant. He wasn't living with you. You were renting a place, although you weren't paying rent from him, and the underlying landlord wasn't getting his money, all of his money, because he wasn't getting your money. And what's coming to me is that somebody got stiffed with rent, and that would be the landlord who rented you your place where you were living, because you didn't pay him the whole thing. You didn't pay him the whole thing. And now you want me, you're asking me, to award you $10,000 for overpayment of rent.
Your Honor, could I clarify something? The times when I didn't pay rent, I was not working. It was during COVID, so the first couple months of the COVID lockdown, I lost all of my contracts, so I didn't have any money. And so I was using there was a COVID process where you could, basically say that,
There's no basically in there, only I used it once.
I did not have the money to pay rent. I was not just making money and not paying rent. I would not do that. I was broke. All of my contracts dried up because nobody had any money. I was working for small
So what are you
companies.
suing him for now? The government was very good to you. This is a very interesting America. It's a rent forgiveness, it's a rent moratorium. That doesn't mean the state where you live. What state do you live in?
California.
California. That doesn't mean the owner of this premises was given some sort of a break that they didn't have to pay for utilities, taxes, mortgage on the building, because it's used as a business. As far as I know, there wasn't a moratorium on that, but there was a moratorium on two seemingly able-bodied people to say to the landlord, I can't pay my rent. To add insult to injury, you think that I'm going to give you $10,000 because he charged you more than whatever the third or 40% of your occupancy of the apartment, and he shouldn't have? That's not going to happen, sir. So forget it.
Mark lowers his eyes. Caption coming up.
I've been here a long time. If a landlord is owed $5,000,
yes,
he doesn't say, well, tenant owes me $5,000, but his apartment was clean. I'm going to give him back his $2,000 security deposit. That doesn't happen.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Mark and Christopher.
Mark Michelonis has accused his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, of overcharging for rent and keeping his property. Christopher is countersuing Mark for unpaid rent.
Now, you gave him a security deposit. That is part of your lawsuit.
Correct.
So I want you to forget the overpayment of rent because it is ridiculous.
Okay.
So now let's go to the security deposit part of your complaint. Did he give you a security deposit?
He did, Your Honor.
Now, he didn't pay rent because of this moratorium
Yes.
on rent. Did you get your security deposit back from the landlord?
I did.
How much?
I believe I got the total amount for the entire apartment, which was approximately $2,000.
And how much did Mr. Michelonis give you as a security deposit?
He gave me $1,250 for the security deposit plus a $300 pet deposit.
Sometimes the pet deposit is refundable. Did you get the pet deposit back?
I don't recall specifically if I got that back from the landlord.
But you did get back your entire security deposit, which included his $1,250.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Let's hold that in abeyance for a moment, because now I'm going to go to your counterclaim.
Sure.
I think that's all I have to deal with. Oh, and property taken without permission. Did you get that property back? There was some...
I did not.
What property was it?
There was a stone Buddha carving. There was some dishes, some glasses.
Oh, give me a break. Do you have a stone Buddha carving?
I have the stone Buddha carving. I have a small statuette, a rooster that is his, and a small metal...
Great. Would you pack those up?
Yes.
Do you live close to each other?
I haven't been able to because of our mutual restraining orders.
Fine. Do you know where your local precinct is?
Yes.
Where is it located?
I believe that the closest one would be downtown for me, downtown Oakland.
Okay. You'll find out before you leave today. In 5 days, drop it off at the local precinct.
Absolutely.
Let him know when, and he could go pick up his Buddha.
Yes, I don't want
Great.
bad in my home.
Terrific. Now, money owed for COVID debt is your counterclaim.
Yes.
Which is what?
It is a total of $55.35, I believe.
For what?
That is the unpaid rent.
But you didn't pay his rent, you just told me.
Right, and so this is the outstanding balance of the rent that he never paid that I'm responsible for as the master tenant.
Oh, no, you just told me that you got your security deposit back. If you got your security deposit back, sir, that means that the landlord is finished with you.
According to the law...
Not according to the law. If you got your security deposit back, the entire security deposit, the landlord has written it off, because otherwise he would have taken your security deposit if you owed him or her money. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very simple.
I understand what
it's
you're
very
saying.
simple.
I wish I could explain that to them in your
Well,
in your manner.
I want to tell you something. I've been here a long time. If a landlord is owed $5,000,
yes,
he doesn't say, well, tenant owes me $5,000, but his apartment was clean. I'm going to give him back his $2,000 security deposit. That doesn't happen.
So
only in the land of Oz does that happen.
They might live there.
No, they might live there, but I don't live there. Okay. You owe him $1,250 for security deposit. This case is over. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to bring
Bye.
Well, I was a little upset.
He's being a drama queen.
The clause in the lease was to prevent people from basically taking advantage of the fact that they've been living in a place for a long time and gouging rent for new tenants.
He said I was price gouging him because he was enough to pay more rent than he might have if he had done some more research.
They were trying to make it equal, and every place that I've lived in, there was always an equitable share of the rent. Like, no one was ever gouging anybody, so I felt that I was unjustly charged.
Well, I can't say it wasn't very satisfying to hear the judge call his claims ridiculous to his face.
Basically, he was leaving the front door open, making it so my dog could escape easily. He was filling the house up with smoke.
We both burned sage.
He was basically trying to get me riled up. He wanted me to move.
While I am disappointed that I won't be able to recover some of his COVID debt.
Basically, the moment that he was, it was inconvenient for me to be there, he tried to make my life miserable.
I'm glad that I will never have to see him again, and this is done.
I'm not living with roommates ever again. I've got my dog, and we're cool.
He was a nightmare, and I never have to see him again.
Judy.
Far be it from me to second guess another judge, but it would seem to me sort of outrageous unless there was some sort of a physical altercation. Why anyone, because he clearly was excluded from his house. He left first, and he said, involuntarily. Would anybody exclude
the original tenant?
The original
when I read the papers, I thought the same thing. I thought that was outrageous, that they would throw out the primary leaseholder on a lease in favor of his subtenant, which may or may not have been legal to begin with.
I can understand it if there was something more serious, but harassment, I just don't understand it. But
I didn't.
Mine is not to wonder why. Mine is but to do what I do. And I don't think that when you come into a court where you have at least participated marginally in a giveaway, to then come in and say, you know what, there's a technical thing. He wasn't supposed to charge me this much rent because I didn't occupy this much of the apartment, whatever. Ridiculous when you didn't pay rent for 7 months anyway. It made my job a lot easier.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
He said, Dad, I have no place to go.
He fed you. He kept a roof over your head, and you weren't working.
Yes, ma'am.
And the girlfriend wasn't working.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm quickly losing patience with 2 ingrates.
This is Judy. 19-year-old Kaya Eliasov and Brandon Blanchard are suing Brandon's father, William Blanchard, for unpaid wages, property damage, and stolen belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy enters.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Gus. Case number 2028, Eliasov Blanchard versus Blanchard.
Thank you, Kevin.
Welcome.
Eliasov?
Yes, ma'am.
That's you. How old are you?
19, almost 20.
19.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do?
I am a server.
Since when?
As of June of this year.
This is your boyfriend?
A fiance, yes, ma'am.
Fiance. And how long has he been your fiance?
For over a year.
What does he do for a living?
He is currently unemployed.
When was the last time he had a job?
That was about a year ago.
What kind of work did he do a year ago?
Warehouse work.
Is there any reason that he hasn't worked in a year?
He has concussions and back injuries. And
from what?
From car accidents.
Does he currently have any lawsuits pending with regard to those accidents?
No, ma'am.
So the accidents were your fault?
No, they were the other people's faults.
The other people had no
insurance? The other person didn't have insurance at the time. So later on, he ended up stating that he did have insurance and got out of the ticket.
Do you see a doctor regularly?
Not anymore, no. I used to, though, until I ran out of my insurance for health insurance. And then the bill just kept stacking up on me.
At that time, did you have an attorney?
No, Your Honor.
Did you ever have an attorney with regard to, did you ever consult an attorney with regard to these accidents? No.
No.
Okay, fine. Is there any reason why you're not working?
Yes, ma'am. I have bad back problems that I've had for quite some time. I have 4 discs out in my lower back. I also have knee injuries, shoulder injuries, I was pushing my body more than I should have been. I was over 300 pounds working in a heated environment, working every day, and I dropped all the weight, and then I ended up hurting myself even further from there. And then my doctor told me not to do anything over 20 pounds, so I went against her rules, and I did it anyways, and I kept injuring myself.
What kind of work does your father do?
He works as a U-Haul business associate and mechanic as well.
When did you live with your father?
I lived with my father in January, I believe it was 8th.
January of what year?
Of 2022, sorry.
After you have been disabled all this time because of all the heavy work.
Yes.
Let me give a general outline of what this case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
You and your fiancée were living where?
We were living with my father.
No, before you lived with your father.
My father.
Her father.
In what state?
Wyoming.
There come a time when your father either said it's enough or you decided that you were no longer happy in Wyoming?
It was a conflict with his girlfriend that came about.
Whatever it was. If it was a conflict with his girlfriend, your father told you to skedaddle.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And you called your father.
No, I didn't call my father.
Who did?
My father called me.
You mean just out of the blue?
Yeah, he does it at random
No.
once in a while.
He just called you at about the same time that your fiancé's father told you to get out.
Yes, is what I believe. Anyways, I've had a few concussions, Your Honor, and I don't remember a lot.
Okay, we're going to get there. In any event, you had a discussion with your father that you didn't have a place to live, you didn't have a job, she didn't have a job, you had no money. Her father was kicking you out of the house, and he drove cross-country to get you.
Yes, ma'am.
In what month?
It was in January.
January of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
How many miles did he drive to come and get you?
I think 1,000 miles, maybe.
Each way?
Each way, probably about 2,000 total, something like that.
Okay, so he drove 2,000 miles to come and get you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he brought you back to his house.
Yes, ma'am.
And you weren't working.
Yes, ma'am.
And the girlfriend wasn't working.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you weren't working, the girlfriend wasn't working, you had no money, so your father was taking care of your expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And now you're suing him. And you're suing him for a host of things, which I'm going to give you a relatively short time to tell me about. But one of the things that your fiancé says is that your father owes you for wages because you worked for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Doing what?
I was doing U-Haul work, basically.
What is U-Haul work?
Oh, sorry. I'll explain. Sorry, ma'am. Basically, what we do.
Not basically. I don't want to hear basically.
Sorry.
I want to hear what you were doing.
I would hook up U-Hauls. I would also clean and inspect all the vehicles.
Just a second. Hook up the U-Hauls.
Hook up the U-Hauls.
Clean and inspect them.
Clean and inspect them.
What does it involve in cleaning them?
Basically spraying down.
Not basically.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. We spray down all the.
Not we. You.
Yeah. Sorry. I spray down every single surface of the innards of the vehicle. Basically, the steering wheel, the floor plates, the radio, everything.
And when you hook them up, explain how you hook something up.
How I hook something up is just backing up, lining up with.
So you'd have to drive.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're driving a car and backing up.
Yes, ma'am. And
so
then,
you're using a rear view mirror?
Yes.
And yourself. You're looking to see where you're backing up because you have to use both.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then you hook them. Well, what else did you do for your father?
I also did paperwork for him, doing like inventory stocks and stuff like that.
Terrific.
Basically.
Not basically. I don't want to hear basically. Basically is a filler word.
Sorry, ma'am. What else was I doing? I would sweep, clean up his shop. I would do a lot of things.
Okay, all while you were unable to do anything else.
Yes, ma'am. I would.
Well, just a second.
What were you saying?
After your back issues, after your concussions, after whatever other injuries that you had from working someplace. By the way, you don't have a lawsuit pending against anybody, do you?
No, ma'am.
So it's just a question of fetching, other than maybe trying to collect a disability somewhere along the line from the federal government. You were able to hook up U-Hauls, clean them and sanitize them, sweep out the premises, do paperwork, but you can't work. I mean, because part of the lawsuit is about all this work that you did, but all while you're telling me that you're unemployable because of all the injuries that you had.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okie dokie. You understand how ridiculous that sounds to me.
Yes.
I only had one other case in my recent memory that sounded anywhere familiar to this story, and that was a man that was also receiving disability because he had a bad back. He was the plaintiff in a lawsuit suing someone because he had built them an outdoor patio deck alone, and he wasn't paid the $6,000 for it. But he had been collecting disability for a back ailment for 31 years from the federal government. That sound odd to you?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't it sound odd to you that you're able to put hookups together and sweep and everything else, but you can't say, do you want a hamburger with your fries or fries with a burger?
Yes, ma'am.
That sounds peculiar to you. Right. So I don't want to hear about work. Okay, that's the first thing. And you lived in your father's house for how long, by the way?
I think we only lived there for the first month, and then we ended up getting moved out to a camper for like the last bit of the, I think, 2 months that we were there.
I don't know what you're suing for. You want to tell me?
Caption, coming up.
I don't want to see any pictures of what? Of the truck?
The parts that were missing.
I don't care. I don't care. After 2 weeks, he could burn that truck. It's on his property without his permission. Let's go.
And later today.
That you said perfectly. I would ask her for $50 or $100, and she would lend me that. Is that the word she used?
She would lend me money and vice versa.
Thank you.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Kaya, Brandon, and William.
19-year-old Kaya Eliasov and Brandon Blanchard claim Brandon's father, William Blanchard, owes for unpaid wages and stolen property. William is countersuing for moving expenses and property damage.
Now, I'm not entertaining your wages because you can't work. That's what he just swore to. He can't work. That's why he's unemployed. He has 4 disc problems. I think he said 4. Whatever. He can't work. Forget him now. I want you to tell me what you're suing this man who drove 2,000 miles to rescue you after your father threw you out. I want you to tell me what you think he owes you for.
For the stolen property of my vehicle.
What stolen property of your vehicle?
He stole my toolbox with the key with it and also parts that went to my vehicle.
Did you take her toolbox?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Next. What's next?
Whenever I confronted him about it.
About what?
About the toolbox when we went to go get my truck, then he would say what he just said, that he never took it. But when I asked him where did the key go for it, he denied he would just ignore that fact.
Well, it's not a fact. It's not a fact unless you can prove that he took your property. You said he just said to you, I don't have your toolbox.
But my vehicle was on his property, in his possession.
Okay, and that's what you have. Your vehicle, while you were living there, was on his property, and therefore he's responsible for the toolbox.
Yes, ma'am. When he kicked us out and then told us to come back for the truck, he was going to give us 2 weeks to have it towed.
Because the truck wasn't working, but he let the truck stay on his property for 2 weeks.
Yes.
What else are you suing him for?
Just for the repairs on the vehicle.
On what vehicle?
On my truck. That whenever I went to go get the truck off his property after that 2 weeks, that's when the toolbox was missing, and I also looked under the hood, and there was wires hanging out, and those wires, I do have pictures.
So just a second. Let me ask you this question. You said, you said he gave you 2 weeks to come and get your truck off his property. The truck was inoperable when you left it on his property. Wasn't running.
No, ma'am.
That's right. You did not come to get it off his property in 2 weeks. You came after the 2 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
How much after the 2 weeks?
I think just like a couple days after. We came back on April 23rd and we left the property April 6th.
So it was after the 2 weeks?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let's get there fast because I'm quickly losing patience with 2 ingrates.
Here's the pictures.
I don't want to see any pictures of what? Of the truck?
The parts that were missing.
I don't care. I don't care. After 2 weeks, he could burn that truck. It's on his property without his permission. Let's go. Move on. Your father came 2,000 miles to get you. He fed you for a month. He kept a roof over your head for a month. In return, you're suing him for nonsense. Let us move on.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. Now, Mr. Blanchard.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a countersuit that actually you wouldn't have brought now because you didn't have an agreement with your son and his fiancée when you went to get him. How many children do you have?
8 altogether.
Prior to going to get him cross country, when had you seen him?
Been several years.
Tell me about the conversation when he contacted you.
He said, Dad, I have no place to go. We can try to stay with her grandmother. I offered, said, I'll come get you if you have no place to go.
And then?
Within a week, I dropped everything to go get him.
Now, when your son and his fiancée came to you, sir, did you put him to work in your business?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long was he in your business?
Altogether, maybe less than 90 days.
Did he work in your business after they moved out of your house? He says they only lived in your house for 30 days.
They were in the house 45 days, and then they were left another 45 days inside of a camper.
Can you tell me why they moved into a camper?
There was a chance of my daughter coming home, and they were living in her room at the time. And so I wanted to make sure they still had something, so I put them into a camper.
Camper on your property?
Yes, Your Honor.
What kind of camper?
Small camper. It had
So
a
they
shower.
used the inside of the house to shower and
Yes, Your Honor.
stuff, but they slept in the camper?
Yes, Your Honor.
All true?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And he paid for the camper, he paid for the electricity, water, et cetera, when you were now. She wasn't working. Did he also pay for the food? Did you eat in the house or did you eat in the camper?
No, ma'am. We were getting food stamps. So we paid for our own food. And we also helped them with their food as well.
Why were you getting food stamps?
For the short bit of time because he recommended to get on food stamps.
Had you been on food stamps when you lived in Wyoming?
No, ma'am.
Okay, how did you support yourself there?
I was working at the time.
And what about him?
A driving company, basically, we go around, pick up food from places and
So
deliver.
you were able to drive?
Yes.
Oh.
For only a little bit.
With all those injuries? Amazing. Okay, I would like you to testify, sir, now to the conversation that you had with your son with regard to compensation for coming to pick him up in Wyoming. Be very careful what you say to me.
I told my son before I picked him up, I said, you need to pay me back for this trip.
Did you tell him what for the trip? I mean,
Yes,
your
for all
time?
expenses. All expenses for the trip.
For the expenses?
Yes, Your Honor.
How was he supposed to do that? He wasn't working.
He was supposed to get a nighttime job on top of working, helping me out around my shop.
Did he help you around your shop?
He
You
did.
said about 90 days. Did you pay him?
No, Your Honor.
Well, if he worked for you for 90 days and you didn't pay him at all, and it cost you a couple of $1,000s, according to you,
Yes, Your Honor.
to go out and get him, hire trucks, spend time back, whatever it was, and he worked for you for 90 days without compensation, why do you think he did that?
I was hoping just because that's what he really wanted to do.
No good deed goes unpunished. You went and you got him, and now they're suing you, but their case is dismissed. They have no case against you. It's all a bunch of nonsense and ridiculous. But likewise, sir, your counterclaim is for the expenses that you incurred in going to pick them up. I don't actually think that there was an agreement to pay you back for your expenses. But even if there was an agreement to pay you back for your expenses, the fact that he worked for 90 days without any compensation, I think, more than compensates you for that. As a result of that, your counterclaim as well is dismissed. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
You try to do your best for your kids whenever you can. This is no different.
It's been very difficult growing up.
I hope he gets his life together.
I don't want anything to do with him.
I'll always be there for him.
It's time to cut the strings. I'm done with him.
That young man sounded as if he was intelligent. That doesn't mean he was smart. That means he was intelligent. Because at age 19 or 20, to have already figured out that you can't work because you have a bad back unless you really have to work. If you really have to work, then you can work for your father. That's a bad mindset for a very young person. That means that your life is really going nowhere. You're not preparing yourself to do anything.
And to take it a step further and to sue the only person that was there for you in a time when you needed them.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Case number 2059, Dobson versus Jones, Poindexter. All parties, please step forward.
Clarissa Dobson is suing her sister-in-law, Kenesha Jones Poindexter, for a trip and wedding expenses.
Judy.
Miss Dobson, I assume this is your brother.
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And this is his wife.
That is correct.
They're newly married.
That's correct.
When were they married?
June of 2021, June 26th.
Were you at the wedding?
Yes, I was. I was in the wedding.
Wedding at your house?
Wedding was at my home.
This is the unfortunate circumstance that I read in your papers, which I hope to be able to resolve quickly. You've known the defendant for many, many years.
Yes, that's correct.
She became engaged too when she was getting married, and they were planning a wedding, according to you. And Miss Poindexter, according to you, asked you to lay out certain monies for her for the wedding.
That's correct.
They were married. It was a joyous day, I gather. And then you asked her for the money back.
Yes, that's correct.
And she said, I never agreed to pay you any money. We're family. I've done things for you. You've done things for me. There was never an agreement for me to pay you. And your brother, he said, leave me out of this.
Yep.
I don't want to get involved with this. You two ladies take care
That's
of it
exactly
on
what he
your own.
said.
Okay, well, it seems like a family matter, then more like a court matter.
Caption coming up.
I don't see
taking her for her
stupid
word.
written over here.
No.
If somebody doesn't have $50 and you think I believe that you relied on her statement that I'm going to pay you for this trip that your brother is going on too, I don't believe it.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Clarissa and Kenesha.
Clarissa Dobson claims her sister-in-law, Kenesha Jones Poindexter, is responsible for trip costs and wedding expenses.
You have your own home.
Yes, that's correct.
Tell me about your home.
Nice home, got a lot of land around the property.
How much?
I would say probably a half an acre, which was big enough to put up 2 large tents, 45 guest tables, chairs, the mayor, some police. It was nice.
And there were certain things that you paid for.
Yes, that's correct.
You paid for a photographer?
Yes, that's correct.
How much?
The photographer was $300, Your Honor.
Okay, what else did you pay for?
Because the party was held at the home, the wedding, excuse me, all the events pertaining to the wedding party had to take place at the home.
Like what?
So like when we had our bridal shower meetings, because also Miss...
Oh, you mean the meetings to plan the wedding?
Right, to plan the wedding.
I'm not interested in
You're
that.
not interested in that?
I'm not interested in that. Yeah, so far we have $300 for a photographer that you say you laid out. Did she lay out that money?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, what else?
Her rides back and forth.
I'm not interested in her rides back.
Well, how was she going to get this? She's in Philadelphia. I'm in New Jersey.
$300 for a photographer. What else?
And just money she asked to borrow for the most part throughout the wedding.
Just a second.
So we have...
How much and when? So far, $300 for a photographer.
So on January 20th, Your Honor, we have $150.
For what?
She didn't say what it was for. It was for the wedding, though, because I have it here. Everything wedding is here.
Well, did she ask you for this $150 on the phone, in person?
She asked for it, like, over the phone, but then I sent the money, too. So anything that I sent to her, I always sent to her through Cash App because she's in Philadelphia, no car.
Okay. Then let me ask Ms. Poindexter. Ms. Poindexter, there would be no other reason for Ms. Dobson to send money to you through a Cash App during the wedding period other than for the wedding. Would that be accurate?
Not in January, Your Honor. We didn't start planning our wedding until 90 days before June. So anything that happened in January had nothing to do with my wedding.
Okay. Do you have Cash App statements before January?
I have nothing before January.
She has nothing before.
I have everything
Only
from
after.
January on.
Only after. So that would be for the wedding.
We didn't start planning our wedding until about March. We got married in June.
So what would she be sending you money for?
It has been times, it has been times when I'll ask her for, let me get $50 or, it has been times if I didn't have it or I might have needed a car fare or something, and she would do that. She would lend me money and vice versa.
No, I'm not talking about vice versa. I don't have a counterclaim. That you said perfectly. I would ask her for $50 or $100 and she would lend me that. Is that the word she used? Let's make sure I heard that right.
She says, it has been times when I'll ask her for, let me get $50 or, there has been times. And you asked her why. She said if I didn't have it or I need a car fare or something, and she would do that. She would lend me money and vice versa.
Thank you. Lend me money. So, okay, now we're going to get to Ms. Dobson. How much money did you send her via Cash App? Because she's already just acknowledged that those were loans.
So, 150, 100.
Let me have the dates.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's go back. 150 on what date?
January 20th.
Okay, 100 on what date?
February 11th.
Next.
March 8th, $50.
Okay.
April 4th, $100. May 11th, $20. May 17th, $25. May 22nd, $205. 15 on May 25th. May 28th, $45. June 3rd, $15. And I had a February 28th in here for $50. That was the first one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had February 11th only. So you have another.
Right, a February 28th for $50.
Can I see all of those?
Yes, ma'am. Here you go.
Clarissa hands documents to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews them.
Okay. Sarah Rose, would you fix that up for me? Okay, and you, based upon the read back and based upon what I thought I heard, anytime she sent you money, it was because you ran out of money, you were in a bind, and she loaned you the money. That's what was here.
Excuse me.
You have
$775.
$775. Has she paid you back any of that money?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, the photographer. I want you to tell me how it came about that you paid the photographer.
Because Miss Jones / Poindexter was waiting on unemployment to hit. And I'm not saying she wasn't trying to get the money up, because she was. But when the time came, this photographer guy needed to get paid, she didn't have the money.
Want to tell me about the photographer?
Yes, the photographer, I believe I was short like $300 some odd, and Clarissa did put the rest of the money.
Why didn't you pay her the $775?
I don't believe I owe Clarissa.
Well, you just told her that she loaned you the money when you were short, and she wired it to you or did whatever they do in a cash app. I don't understand all of that. You said it was a loan. Is there any reason why you didn't pay her back? No. Okay. So far I have $775 and $300. Next.
Okay, so now we have the trip. They are the godparents of my twins. Yeah, Anna, we were inseparable.
Okay, they're the godparents of your twins, your twins.
Came time for their birthday. She said...
Month and year?
April of last year, 2021.
Okay, April of 2021.
Right. So in the process of planning the twins' birthday, Miss Jones Poindexter said, oh, I would like to go. I'm just waiting on the unemployment, pandemic money, all that to hit. When it came time to go, they didn't have the money.
You're talking about the defendant and your brother. Yeah. They both went.
Right. So
just a second. They both went.
They both went. That's correct.
And what kind of work does your brother do?
He was a chef at the time.
So he was working?
Yes.
And she wasn't working?
Yes. Can I say something?
You can say whatever you want to say. You know where I'm going, don't you?
I know where you're going.
Okay.
Like I said, we were inseparable, right?
I don't care. I don't care about the social aspect of this.
Okay, but certain things she just didn't want to let him know she was doing, because at the end of the day, she thought she was going to get this money.
Miss Dobson, I don't care whether you say she didn't know what she was doing. You were already in a place where on January 20th, she didn't have $150, so you sent it to her. On February 11th, she didn't have $100, you sent it to her. On March 8th, she didn't have $50. You had to send it to her. So I don't see stupid written over here.
No.
If somebody doesn't have $50 and you think I believe that you relied on her statement that I'm going to pay you for this trip that your brother is going on too because his godchildren are celebrating a birthday, I don't believe it. So let's just forget a trip. $775 is what she says she owes you because she says it was a loan. $300 for the photographer. You have the pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't hear anything from you suggesting to me that this $300 was a gift.
I honestly did believe that she was doing it for our wedding.
Okay, good. $1075, judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
So, Your Honor, what
This court is adjourned.
That's it.
It's just a sad situation all the way around.
That's probably how she feels right now.
I love my sister-in-law.
She loves me and I love her. So what?
Honestly, I just want to be able to see my godkid.
I'm sure we'll be all right.
It's always unfortunate and sad when nice occasion turns sour by one thing.
Yeah.
And I thought the brother/husband was
the smartest one.
The smartest one. I'm staying out of this between my sister and my wife.
Yep. The safest place he could be was right where he sat. Just unfortunate. I mean, families squabble all the time, but just to bring it into a legal system, there are ramifications for that sometimes your anger or emotions can get the better of you. But to take it to a filing stage and to use the court system, that's just the next level that I feel like most family members don't need or shouldn't do.
Yeah, you're right.
Title, Judy Justice.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to judyjustice.com.
ওরে ভাই হ্যাকার ও ভাই আমাদের জুনকুশের ভাই হয়ে গেছে ভাই সে জুনকুশ কে দিবে ও
আরে ভাই আমি যে তোমাদের উঠাবো আমি যদি মরে যাই এখন
এই জুনকুশের তো এক নাম্বার আনে গোস্ট গোট জি জি না মুকুল ভাই এই জুনকুশের ভাই তুমি গাড়ি খুঁজবা তুমি কি এটা কি করতেছো আরে ভাই ওই যে গাড়ি কিনো না আচ্ছা ভাই বাইরে লাগবে মুকুল বাইরে লাগবে তবে একসাথে থাকো গাড়ি নাও এখানে গাড়ি আছে গাড়ি আছে
হ্যাঁ আমি জোন পুষার হইছি
না এক নাম্বার
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে
ক্যারেক্টার লাগে ভাই ক্যারেক্টার